You know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men. We will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
Very thankful for 12th man. They've won us games.
Been in college baseball for a while now, but I've never experienced anything like 12th man.
That's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
Our skill set worked great together. Like, he was more speed and I was more power, and then we put together, it was like thunder and lightning, you know.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Who sings that song since you've been gone?
Kelly Clarkson.
Kelly Clarkson.
I cannot breathe for the first time.
Well, we can breathe a sigh of relief because A&M baseball is on fire. Welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. I am David Nuño here on Monday, July 8th, 2024. He's not Olin Buchanan, who's on vacation. He's Ryan Brauninger.
I feel like I need to start scratching my head and doing all this stuff with my hands and kind of clearing my throat, and I can be OB.
Yeah.
You want me to start trying that?
You can. Can you talk a little bit about meat dessert?
Meat desserts.
Are you not familiar with meat dessert?
Our
good friends at Fargo's unfortunately closing their doors. A great sponsor to TexAgs for a long, long time. And just great people over there. So we're thinking about Alan Belender and the whole crew over there.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you cut me off and didn't let me say what I was going to say when you said meat desserts, and you had a plan for that. So
yeah, no, just shout out to Fargo's. They were so good to the community, great food, and we're going to miss them. When OB's here, we'll pay some more tributes to them here next week. But Bronny, thanks for coming in this morning because we have so much to talk about.
I'm going to be honest with you. I forgot. You texted me yesterday, and I forgot.
When did you remember?
When I woke up this morning at 7:20, I was like,
oh, that's right.
I better get moving.
Yep.
And then so I sped through a torrential downpour. By the way, can we talk about these hurricane names?
Irma? Wait, what's right now? Beryl?
Beryl.
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 B-E-R-Y-L.
It's
right?
like Daryl with a B, but they don't even spell it right.
Don't they have to do it like based on the number of storm that it is? So A for the first storm.
Yeah,
B,
that's every year.
Yeah.
But the names, like, and I guess they're trying not to recycle ones. I don't know when. There's some good homework for the folks in the back. When they start naming hurricanes, and then I'm guessing that they don't ever rename them. So, like, you know, if you've had
Ike, you're not going to have Ike. Oh, maybe you could have Isaac.
You could.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, you're not going to recycle the names. And I don't know, you know, if they started naming them in 1940, it may be earlier than that.
Yeah.
So you've got 80 years of B-name hurricanes. Like, I'm sure you're getting down the list, but for Beryl, have you ever met anybody named Beryl?
Never in my life have I met.
I've not even heard of fictional characters named Beryl.
If we have a listener by the name of Beryl, well, you get yourself a free bag of TexAgs coffee at texags.com/coffee.
Boy, you're good. You're a corporate man.
I try.
You're a paid man. I'm telling you.
If there's one barrel out there, I'll hook you up for reals.
We got a barrel of coffee.
A barrel of coffee here at TexAgs. Buddy, so we talked about it.
What about Hurricane Buddy?
I'm sure we've had a Hurricane Buddy.
That would be your favorite hurricane.
Tropical Storm Buddy.
Yeah.
Do I call people Buddy a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Do I?
Oh, yeah.
Pal?
You know who used to call people Buddy a lot, too?
Who's that?
The former head coach here.
Jimbo used to do that?
No.
Oh, Summy?
More recent.
More recent than Jimbo?
Yeah. He used to
Elijah?
No, come on, man.
Who are we talking about?
No, I'm not going to say
it. Baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. Yeah, you're right.
So I'm just saying. That was funny, though. You know, it's crazy that you went to football because it's not crazy because we're less than 7 weeks away from Notre Dame coming in here. But if you would check our message board,
it's a baseball message board.
It is right now.
It's July.
But you know what? It's got to be good for you. And for content wise, it's been great.
Yeah.
And It's given us stuff to talk about throughout usually the dog days of summer as we're getting ready for football, as we don't have to break down the offensive line rotation for 3 straight weeks. And, I feel like we get so football heavy during the summer because that's what everybody's looking forward to, that we just keep rehashing some of the same.
You find a different way for the same topic.
Right. Like how many carries will Amari Daniels get? And
best week 1 games.
Yeah.
Go.
And when you start breaking down rosters and stuff, so this week and a half after the College World Series, going on 2 weeks now, I guess it is 2 weeks now, has just been a whirlwind, but it's been fun. Like, it's made the summer stuff fun. It's been crazy and hectic. I've had more people come up. So on Saturday night, me and my wife went to Century Square, the Canteen. You ever been out there?
To where?
The Canteen.
Mm-mm.
It's the restaurant attached to Cavalry Court.
I have not been there, but I saw you posted a picture.
Yeah, so I went out there and watched one of my former players at 12 play guitar named Cole Whittlesey. He's trying to make it in Texas music. He's got a couple albums out. I suggest y'all go listen. He's available on all platforms. So we went out there and watched him play, and I bet whatever the amount of people that came up and talked to me, they all asked about baseball first. All of them.
Yeah.
What's going on? How's your life been? What's your phone been like through all this baseball stuff? And so I'm there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to talk a lot about, I bet, what has happened over the last 5 days since y'all went off the air for 4th of July. There's been so many additions. But
we talked about maybe, do we need to come in and do a show because there were so many things happening?
I know. But I think that there's a light at the end of the tunnel where it will not only settle for me, but more importantly, it'll start settling for Mike Earley and his staff, where they're going to have a real clear picture of what their roster looks like. Now, then we got to manage the draft. But they're getting a much more clearer picture, and they're starting to settle in now. So it'll be, I'm anticipating a couple more announcements today.
Today. Because there's
from guys not on last year's roster, from new ads.
Because I feel you had hinted either on Twitter or on the boards that there was at least 2 or 3 unannounced transfers, right?
Yeah, one of them, everybody thought it was Miles Patton last night, which is a massive one. I mean, That's a huge one. And I didn't even know that he called, committed, and put it out like that, like it was done. So I didn't even get a heads up on that one. So he wasn't even one of the ones that I knew about that was
he on
unannounced.
Campus?
Yeah, he visited this weekend. These telemarketers, dude. Every morning they call me at the same time. And I'm on the do not call list. I've heard, I'm not condoning this, but this is what I've heard will get them to quit calling you. Is when you pick up, if you ask them if they want to buy drugs.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
They'll take you off the list?
I guess. I had a buddy in high school that, again, I'm not condoning this. Don't clip.
It's not like
somebody's going to clip this and I'm going to be in trouble. But he would answer the phone about, hey, you want to buy some heroin? And they'd hang up and they would quit calling him.
It's not like TSA where you make that threat, you're done. Like you're going to jail. Like you can say that on the phone and be fine?
They're calling me again. I wonder if they're listening to me. It's the same number. Maybe I should ask them.
Answer on the air.
I'm not. No, because that's going to get clipped. Believe me, after the last 2 weeks I've had on this radio show, I don't need anything else clipped.
All right, so on Thursday, was it Thursday we did the last show? It was Wednesday. Goodness, right? Wednesday was the last show?
But you know what? Nick has really gotten into big producer voice.
Yeah, they can't hear on the radio, but he just yelled at us.
Yeah, he always yells at us.
So it was Wednesday, and as we got off the air, maybe within 30 minutes, Caden Sorrell said he was coming back. Mm-hmm. And then it's just an avalanche of things that's happening.
Do you have all the names? Because I was trying to look through them before we started the show.
So I wrote down a bunch of them. There's Caden Sorrell's stats up on the page. Miles Patton, we talked about a moment ago. Clayton Freshcorn committed to A&M. Jacob Galloway transferring to A&M. I wrote down Wyatt Sanford reaffirming his commitment to A&M.
Kyron LeBlanc, right-handed pitcher from Cisco.
I forgot to put that one down.
Wyatt Hensler reaffirmed after visiting LSU, and the Tigers made a big run. That one was huge. And then, we haven't even, obviously since Mike Earley's gotten the job, he's gotten Jace back, Gavin back, Caden Kent back, Caden Sorrell back, Justin Lampkin back, Caden Wilson back. That was a pretty incredible run.
Yeah.
And that's why, and then all the other transfers. If we talked about Gavin Cash, did that happen when y'all were on?
That happened during the week.
Okay,
yes.
So, just what he's been able to do in terms of not only roster retention, but also new additions. What a week. And the guy walked into a scenario where it was pretty rocky, let's be honest, with all those guys in the portal. And, a lot of the players wanted him to be the next head coach, and Trev Alberts and President Welsh took a shot and took a gamble. It's a roll of the dice, sure. But, man, has he, he's given the decision makers a lot of confidence in the first, 10, 12, 14 days on the job. And I don't expect that to slow down anytime soon. Again, I think they've got two out there that have made decisions in favor of A&M, and we're just awaiting announcements, and there's potentially more on the way. Like, they're not done adding players.
Well, and there's some TBDs, right? So who's going to go in the draft? Pitchers, you don't know who's coming back. If Prager goes high enough, he's not going to come back, right?
Yeah, and I would think for planning purposes, and then if you are just an Aggie and you're I would just expect Prager to get taken and signed. That way, if he ends up back at A&M, it's like the grandest cherry on top you could ever ask for, right? From a pitching side. You expect Cortez to sign. You expect Ali to sign. You expect and then we're waiting on decisions for those fifth-year guys. And I feel confident that Hayden Schatz is going to get done. Like, I've basically been told it's over the line. It was weird because when you have July 4th, you have in the middle of the week, you have people that will take the rest of the week off and then through the weekend, obviously. And so if there's any clerical stuff out there that needs to be tidied up, it'll be – and then now you've got a hurricane.
Right.
So – anything clerical that needs to be done regarding paperwork could be getting pushed back, not for anybody's fault. It's just the way, like I said, the 4th of July, the weekend, and now a hurricane, it may be delayed longer than they thought it would be. But I feel really good about Schott getting his. We actually moved him on the site on that thread. We moved him from the returning to awaiting because he still technically is awaiting that fifth-year waiver or that whatever his waiver is for the Ivy Leagues. For Evan Oschenbeck and Travis Chestnut, I know that early on with Oschenbeck, there was some confidence around it, like real confidence that they was going to get it. The problem is that the NCAA, in their infinite wisdom, has already denied 2 requests similar to Evans. And the longer this goes, the less likely it is that it gets granted.
What's the case for Evan and what's the case against him?
Well, it's the way the rule was written by the NJCAA, which is the junior college governing body. And I don't want to say it because I don't know it verbatim, but it was essentially like if your 2020 or 2021 seasons were impacted by COVID, then you get that year back in terms of eligibility. And I think it's pretty vague with how it reads. But Evan did pitch in that 2021 season. Not only did he pitch, he pitched in the postseason.
Okay.
So it's going to be hard for the NCAA to look at it and say, well, how did that really affect you if you're pitching in – he was pitching in Blend's postseason. But it's crazy nowadays that it's like if Evan really wanted to, I would think there's value in lawyering up on this because the NCAA has shown to have zero spine and they have no taste for fighting these things, especially after the national public embarrassment that happened.
Could A&M help with that, or it has to?
I don't know. I don't know how it goes. Like, I don't want to say anything that'll implicate anybody more than it probably should. But I think that Evan, obviously, he wants to have this opportunity to come back if the draft doesn't, depending on where he falls. It's crazy that a guy that's gotten as many SEC hitters out, not just SEC hitters, Pac-12 hitters, ACC, Big 12 hitters, at such a rate that he has over the last 2 years is still contemplating coming back to school. Like, at some point, if I'm a pro team, I'm going, well, I know the stuff technically doesn't look like all the other left-handed reliever stuff, but what do the numbers say?
Right.
What do the swings say of the opposing hitters? And that should tell you a lot. But I think Evan he would love to come back and play at A&M. Like, he loves Texas A&M. His family loves Texas A&M, and he'd like to have that as an option way against the draft. And so, but I just don't. I think for he and Travis Chestnut, I'm very much leaning toward they're not going to get it granted, and then be pleasantly surprised if they do. What Travis can do, and really Evan can do too, is they can go play D2 baseball because the D2s are allowing it. For anybody in that 21 season that.
Right.
that lost the year. So, they may not be done with college baseball. I don't think Evan would do that, but it's something Travis may entertain if he wants to just go get, another year under his belt and go play. Hey,
I do want to ask you about Wyatt Sanford. He's another one that is kind of have to weigh how high he goes.
Yeah, he's the most highly rated prospect in A&M's 2024 signing class. He reaffirmed his commitment, which basically said, like, if I don't sign, I'm coming to A&M, because there's been a lot of – with the coaching transition, there's been there's been a few kids that wanted out of their letters of intent. And so all he was saying is, like, I don't want out of my letter of intent. Like, I'm either going to go play professional ball or I'm going to A&M. He has not, and I do not think he will pull his name out of the draft. He is projected right now in this probably early second. It'll just depend. Look, for these drafts, it's just like the NFL draft. All it takes is for one team to love you.
Right.
And they're going to take you, no matter, and especially depending on if you're willing to work with them with your signing bonus. They've all got this pool of money that they've got to stay under through the first 10 rounds. So let's just say Ryan Brauninger, for example. Let's just say he's telling teams that he'll sign for $2 million. I'm making a number up. Let's just say he's telling a team, well, I'll sign for $2 million. Well, if a team really wants him,
they'll spend that $2 million.
They'll spend the $2 million. But if they can say, hey, like, we'll take you here at 1.5 or 1.75, are you willing to do that? And he says yes, then you can save some money. Depending, like, all those picks have value. They're slot valued, right? So every club is looking to play with the numbers so that they can have more money to spend maybe later on a guy. Or, maybe I've heard stories that J.J. Weatherholther, infielder from West Virginia, his signing bonus is really low. So one of the teams at the very top may take him, especially if they think he's similar to Travis Bazzana or they think he's similar to Jack Caglione. Man, if I can take Weatherholt and save $3 million or $2 million in my signing pool, it may be worthwhile for me to do. So it's a scouting plus numbers game for all these organizations. And so whether it's Ryan Brauninger or Wyatt Sanford, they've all got some decisions to make here in the next week or so. Okay, do I have a hard cut line? Like Jace Lavalette and Gavin Grahovic, they had a hard cut line with their number. And so, like, when teams were calling Jace before the draft and like, hey, will you take this? And it was getting closer to his number, but it wasn't. Jace is like, no, like, I'm not going below that. And so that's whenever he comes to school. So are these guys like Brauninger, Sanford, Cortez, are they hardwired at a number? And if they are and don't get it, you get them back. But this is so stupid because, like, imagine you're Mike Earley and you're doing all this work. And Gavin Cash, a kid that just committed, he could still sign. Matthew Bergevin could technically still sign. I don't anticipate him, but he could. He's 6'4", 240 pounds, and hit 18 home runs. Like, somebody could really like the power potential there in professional baseball. But imagine you're Mike Earley and a new staff trying to build a roster, and you still got all this to contend with. So you've got all this momentum and to only potentially have your legs cut out from under you by the draft. They've got to do something. MLB moved the draft to All-Star Weekend because they wanted more eyeballs on it, like the NFL and NBA drafts. But what it's done is put all these college coaches across the country in a major bind, because you're talking about scholarship allocation too. You got 11.7 scholarships for your roster. You have to spread them out over your whole roster. How are you supposed to do that when you don't know who's coming and who's going?
And Major League Baseball doesn't have to help college baseball.
No, but they should. And what they have done after COVID with shortening the draft and eliminating a bunch of minor league teams has made college baseball better. There's more good players in it.
Yeah.
But them altering the draft, remember the draft used to be during the College World Series, so guys would be playing and get picked. They'd be on the field playing and got picked, and they would find out in the dugout or whatever afterward. I didn't like that because I thought, when you're playing for a national championship, could guys have their minds somewhere else? If you're going through these draft decisions and potentially life-changing money, and you're out there playing, like, it's just human nature not to have that in the back of your mind. You know what I'm saying? So I just wish they would find a better date for the draft that would suit everybody's interest.
All right, this is Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. As I mentioned, beat the hell out of mornings by going to texags.com/coffee. Let's see, texter number. Let's come up with a number for a free
8
barrel of TexAgs Coffee.
8, Michael Earley.
Number 8. Eighth person to send in the word coffee to 979-693-1150. Also, if you want to be part of the conversation this morning, you can call us up on the brand new Boss Firearms hotline. Boss Firearms, your local experts. They buy used guns, ammo, accessories. Go to bossfirearms.com to start earning money like a boss today. Thanks to Adam Drake for setting that up for us. 979-693-1150. We're going to go partially around the room. Let's go behind the glass and say hi to Nick Savage there. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. How are y'all?
What's up, buddy?
I'm good. Just hoping everyone's staying safe. More so in the Houston area. You know, my parents, I know you got family down there, David. So hopefully all of our Houston audience, Aggies, are all staying safe and getting through it. Hopefully they're tuned into TexAgs because, you know, they're a nice one. I wish that was on camera. You just spilled water everywhere.
I did.
But anyways, yeah, it was a fun weekend. I know y'all will probably touch on a little bit of Ryan Gilbert a little bit later, but Aggie baseball recruiting's going well. Aggie football recruiting's hot. I know there's potential for more additions to the classes 2025 and 26 later this week. So, yeah, everything fun weekend for sure.
Thank you, Nick. In a moment, we'll go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. But before we do that, let's hit a break. We'll check in there with Carson Stein. Right now, we're talking about the Association of Former Students. If you are looking for a reason to move back to Aggieland, then you should look at the Association of Former Students, who are always looking to hire great professionals to come back to Aggieland and work here for the best organization. They're seeking to hire professionals in several areas, such as marketing, fundraising, student programs, and much, much more. They are the nation's premier alumni association and the oldest organization serving A&M in support of that Aggie network. They play a part in every Aggie story from Howdy to here. Don't miss opportunities to help out with Howdy socials, Aggie Ring Day, class reunions, Aggie muster, and everything in between. Join a team that exemplifies those Aggie core values of excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service, all in support of that worldwide Aggie network. If you're interested in joining the team or sharing with someone who would be a great fit, please visit tx.ag/association jobs to apply and get more information on each position. It is the Association of Former Students. Since you've been gone. That's the song that's playing.
Can you keep singing?
No, it's terrible. Hey, Olin, I think you're listening. It's raining. It's windy. It's not dangerous yet. Is that probably a fair way of saying College Station and Brian it's windy, rainy, not dangerous?
Depending on, well, your
right
definition of dangerous, it could be different than everybody else's different. I mean, you get in the ring with other men and wrestle around with them. So maybe what you think is dangerous is not.
Sometimes there's women there. I'm just saying, and they would take you.
Well, whatever Olin thinks is dangerous and whatever you and I think is dangerous may be different. Olin may think that rolling out of the bed in the morning without stretching is dangerous.
Okay.
Sometimes he comes in the office and he stretches.
He does. And he's got a back scratcher.
Yeah, he does. But have you ever seen him do his stretches on the stairwell?
Never.
Okay, so he hikes that right leg up.
I think I have seen
on the railing of the stairwell. No, and he kind of leans into it. And he'll do it. The crazy thing about it is he does it mid-conversation sometimes. Just walks over there and hikes that thing up. And I'm like, it's impressive. Like, Olin looked kind of like a ballerina, and I never thought of Olin as like a ballerina.
How would it go when we have our content meeting out there in the lobby if I just start stretching? Like, I get on the ground and I start touching my toes.
We would make fun of you, but because there's a certain person that produces content in this company that doesn't come to content meetings, it probably wouldn't be as bad as it could be.
He would have his cronies take video and send it to him.
Crony.
He's got one crony only.
The 15 minutes of Zane.
Hey, it's TexAgs Radio presented by
Would you rather?
Yes.
Would you rather? I saw this question on the internet. Nick, you can chime in too. Would you rather for the rest of your life?
You don't have headphones on though?
No.
Okay.
I don't really want to listen to Nick. I'm just saying he can chime in. He can tell you, and then you, if it's any good, then you can relay
I'll relay it to you.
Would you rather for the rest of your life eat all your foods and drinks hot or cold?
Say this again. Rest of my life?
For the rest of your life.
Hot.
You're crazy.
What cold food
You're going to drink hot water?
Yeah, it'll get a room temperature.
David, I'm on your side.
Yeah, thank
Team
you,
hot.
Nick. Team hot.
No.
You're going to drink a cold soup?
Sure.
A cold chicken?
I love cold food.
Okay.
But like you put stuff in the refrigerator, cold pizza's great.
No, it's not.
It is.
I don't like it. I like my melted cheese to still be melted.
Yeah, but but I can eat regular cold cheese and be fine.
I mean,
you got to pick one or the other. So you're going to drink hot water.
Why can't it be room
180
temperature?
degree. No, it's because it's one or the other.
No,
I would pick room temperature.
So you're telling me there's a guy who's got a boiling pot of water. Here you go.
It's a hypothetical. You have to drink, but cold is the correct answer. You can't live without this stuff.
You're going to have cold cheese and nachos?
Sure.
Cold?
But I don't have to eat cheese and nachos.
Break the chip into
I don't have to eat cheese and nachos. I can eat deli meats, right? You can't really drink hot water your whole life. Imagine this. You're out at one of these soccer tournaments.
I'm not having cold coffee. That's a fact. I'm not.
But cold coffee is a thing.
Yeah, and so is hot coffee, and I choose it. And so hot water's a thing for your throat.
Okay.
Put some salt in it, you're good.
You're at Christian and Cruz's soccer tournaments or Isla or Annalise soccer tournaments, and it's 140.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to hand you a hot bottle of water.
Okay, reverse. I'm at a soccer tournament in Denver, and it's 32 degrees.
I'll still drink cold water.
Oh, God, no.
I can always add layers. You can't just keep taking them off.
I disagree.
You're crazy. There's no logic behind what you're saying other than like...
I like my steaks medium rare, hot.
Right, but you can eat them cold. You can't eat them cold.
Oh, how cold? Are we talking frozen?
No, like cold. Like it's got to be cooked. Obviously, I'm not talking...
Okay, so then the water conversation we're having, the water is lukewarm.
No, it's not.
It can't
That's not how this goes. That's not the way the hypothetical goes.
Okay, but then I'm going to put the other side. I'm going to say the cold food is frozen.
You're not being reasonable. No,
you're not being reasonable. You're taking one extreme.
The
and
food
I'm
both ways is
extremes.
cooked.
This is not a sports show at the moment.
I don't care.
I kind of like this show, whatever we're doing.
Oh.
Poor Carson Stein has been waiting to talk for an hour at the Angry Elephant.
Carson, cold or hot?
Cold.
See? Reasonable, objective people. I like hot food. I like hot chocolate.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one or the other, the reasonable, logical answer is cold.
So how cold?
Cooked, but it's like in the fridge. Been in the fridge all night.
Okay, so Then why is the water hot?
But because you don't get to get hot water and say
it's lukewarm.
No. If
semi above lukewarm.
If medium was an option, everybody would choose medium.
It's like drinking at a water fountain at Veterans Park during the summer. It's not cold, and it's somewhat hot, but you can drink it. I've done it. I did it this weekend.
Carson,
can you give us some news or some text messages? Just provide value to the show, please.
We got a text from Jerry saying, "Good morning, guys. The reason people are all talking about baseball is because they went to the Championship World Series. They're winners, and that's why we should be talking about baseball."
Well, and also I'll add to that, it's the drama associated, right? We went from a head coach who was beloved to leaving to your bitter rival to wondering, are we even going to have players on our team next year, to all of them coming, and then Michael Earley adds another layer. Yeah, they're all coming back. Most of them are coming back, and also we're bringing in elite players to join.
Yeah. I think there was, some things said about not wanting to hurt A&M and never wanted to hurt A&M, and it's kind of hard to look at those statements made that are now public, right? I mean, it was said in one of those articles. It's hard to look at those statements and say, yeah, that's real. Like that was, because like at one point every coach was going and all the players were in the portal. That wouldn't have gutted A&M. It would have really hurt the program. But no, it's looking forward now. It's what Mike Earley's generated off of the peak interest after the during the championship series has been remarkable, and it was one of the reasons. And like it was almost like, I hate to say it like this because I just think Coach Earley's fantastic, but it's almost like he had to do it.
Yeah.
When you had all these guys in the portal and they're all advocating for Coach Earley to be the head coach, and so whenever he gets the job, it's almost like, yeah, you have to go get all these guys back. That was kind of part of what the short term looked like for you, was going and having success in the portal, and he obviously has been hugely successful. And it's going to be interesting to see how these portal classes are ranked. Does A&M get credit for Jace and Gavin and Schott and Sorrell and all those guys that went in who were top 10, 15 players in the transfer portal? Because if they do, they're going to have the number 1 overall transfer portal class, and it's not even going to be close. And, oh, by the way, one thing we're not talking about, or we probably haven't talked about enough, is him retaining Wyatt Hensler.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, go through – I made a thread. I can't remember even when I did it. All the days are running together. But – maybe we can talk about it. I know we're up against the break. Let's do that. Let's go to break, and then we'll talk about what the lineup next year could look like, and we're 275 days away from it.
Can I show you something? Let me just show you this, Brody, because this is like
Is
I know you
something
didn't read.
On the internet.
No, what the lineup and numbers could look like next year. 8:35. You did that without even reading the rundown.
Well, yeah, I did that. Okay.
All right, just for that, I'm going to read a couple of messages on the YouTube page.
I thought we were up against the break.
We are, but this one I got to get this one in. Heather, big men like things cold. Oh, okay.
What does that mean? Is that some kind of shot?
I didn't say it was a shot.
Big men like things cold.
Yeah.
I do like. What do we? Because we suck up more AC. I need more AC.
We got to hit a break, Brody, just so you know. And
is there some kind of like big veiled? Like I heard it was a big pop in the back.
They all liked it. You never know what. And by the way, there's Brad who's listening, is not a fan of the conversation. Sorry, Brad.
Change the channel.
Yeah. You can get a weather report somewhere. Right now, arthritic joint pain keeping you from doing what you love? Well, then you need to stop, and you need to go make sure that you reach out to our good friends there at QC Kinetics. If you have bone-on-bone pain in your knees, your hips, or your back, look, there are exciting new cellular therapies that get you lasting relief, and that is our good friends there at QC Kinetics. They are the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine. I'm talking about cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so that you can move again. So if you've got pain, get rid of it, guys. You've got QC Kinetics here to help you. They've helped so many people, tens of thousands of people around the country, and right here in the Brazos Valley as well. They've helped so many people, and they want to keep helping people from chronic pain, from arthritis pain, to injury. You don't need to have steroids. You don't need to have surgery. Pain pills are no longer your only option. Learn how QC Kinetics can treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your movement and your life back with regenerative, restorative cellular treatments on your achy joints. The future of medicine is here. Let's call them up right now, 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That's 979-452-6000. And we are back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. My son Cruz is in the building, and he's about to go to work. So and then...
I can't believe you're making him walk to work in the rain.
Well, that's what we used to do in the 1930s.
Yeah, you were so tough.
Yeah, 17
30s?
Yeah, back in the day. Back in night.
I didn't know you had assumed OB's role today.
My beautiful daughter, Isla, was looking at some photos. We were at my parents' house this weekend, looking at some photos of me in the 90s. She couldn't have been more rude. Why are you wearing that, Dad? What's up with your hair? Why don't you smile? Like, what are you doing? Like, it was like Mean Girls on Dad. I was like, you need to chill out, little girl. All right? I'm going to find things to talk about you. Hey, let's talk about this potential lineup, what it could look like, Bronny, and offensively, too. Look, there's still a lot that has to happen, but I remember maybe a little bit deeper into the summer, you were looking at the lineup last year and were like, this could do some special things. I feel like looking at what these names look like that I've written down and you've written down, this offense could be just as potent potentially.
Yeah, so I just scratched a lineup out based off, and all I did was go like left, right for as long as I could. Try not, because there's a bunch of left-handed kids that could potentially be in this lineup, and you just don't want to stack them next to each other. So let's just do conservative estimates. It's midsummer radio. We understand that there's a long way to go.
Yep.
A long way to go before they play any baseball games. But let's just have a little fun in midsummer radio. Okay, and we can even get Carson can chime in too if he has some things, like some numbers that he may have. Okay. Caden Sorrell in a full year as a starter, how many home runs do you think he'll hit? He had 11 this year as a freshman, and he didn't play for the first month.
I'm going to say 18.
18?
Is that fair?
That's fair. I would go 16.
16? Let's go 16. Let's go conservative.
Okay, we're going to conservative. Gavin Grahovic hit 23 as a true freshman.
26.
26? I'll go 27, just so we'll show that we're not agreeing on everything. Jace Lavalette, 29 this year.
32.
32. Wyatt Hensler, 22, the Ivy League home run king. And he did that in less games because the Ivy League plays a truncated schedule.
I'm going to go 20. I don't know, like the transition to SEC.
But, okay, so here's how I would combat that. All these guys that come in, whether it's from Pac-12 schools or UTSA or Ivy Leagues, their home run numbers have either stayed the same or gone up under Mike Earley. So if he hit 22 at Penn, I'll say 25 here. Okay. Gavin Cash.
A couple years ago hit like 24, right?
27, 26, and then was it 19 or 16 last year?
So split the middle.
22.
22 it is.
Okay.
I like how we're operating now.
Matthew Burgevin hit 18 last year at Fairfield. Big dude.
21.
21? Let's go 20.
Okay.
Even 20. Hayden Schott, I think, hit 9 this past year. And remember, the last half of the year or the last 3 weeks,
he's injured.
He's on a bum leg.
11.
11. I like 11 for Shotty. Galloway, Nick, do you have the Galloway graphic handy? I forgot how. I think he only hit like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But that was a light hitting USC lineup.
Let's go 8.
8. Let's see. Yeah, 6 last year, 286, 6 homers. Yeah, we'll go 8. And then Caden Kent hit 5 in very limited time. 10.
10. There it is.
Okay.
We're going to do the math?
Carson, you ready? Get your calculator out. Are you ready?
Yes, David.
Yeah, you can use your words. We're on radio. 16 plus 27 plus 32 plus 25 plus 22 plus 20 plus 11 plus 8 plus 10.
171.
Holy. Okay, so they're not going to hit. I mean,
and that's okay.
That's just 9.
That's the 9. So how many do your subs give you?
Another
10 or 15?
Yeah.
So they could be pushing the 180 home run mark, which is where Tennessee was this year.
Okay, but I can't allow my mind to go there.
Why not?
Because it's
they just played for the national championship.
I'm not saying they can't do it again. I'm just saying that's how many they hit this year? 130.
Close to 140.
Just seems like a lot. Sorry, it seems like a lot.
Okay, but where did we go crazy with any of those numbers?
You didn't go crazy.
Now, we did this before the season started, and we thought Targac would hit 15 to 20. We had thought Blake Benderup would hit more than 10. So somebody steps up and makes up the numbers. But again, this is a July of 2024 exercise that we're trying to get the home run numbers right for the June of 2025. So it's a long way off, and there's a lot of stuff that can happen between now and then. But if you're just putting that lineup together, I mean, it's pretty incredible. And by the way, some of the guys that I think are going to announce today I don't know that they're going to be everyday players, but they're going to be really, really quality depth pieces that can do a lot of different things and could also impact this number.
And then if you were to look at where we are today, based on what you know is coming in, where are the holes?
Well, they got to go – again, what does the draft do to you?
Yeah.
And what happens with Aschenbeck. But the commitment of Miles Patton last night is huge because I think he impacts the weekend rotation. They're going to try to go out and get some more arms, and I think they need some more right-handed arms. Clayton Freshcorn, I think, he's going to be an impact player for this team next year. He's from Waller. He was a skinny kid growing up that played a position and also pitched, but you kept watching him grow and get stronger, and the numbers on the mound just kept getting better and better. So he goes to McLennan, which is one of the best junior colleges in the country right now. He goes up there, and in 1 year, the stuff makes another just huge jump up where now he's 94 to 97, throws a ton of strikes, had a great ERA, playing in the best JUCO league in the country. So I would expect that to be a really impact right-hander out of the bullpen. But another one is like, what happens with Isaac Morton?
You think
well, they're still
feeling better, right?
Yeah, I feel better. I know from what I've been told, he will not go to Texas. I think it'll be A&M or another SEC school. But, with the momentum of all of his buddies coming back, I think you could potentially go get him. He's pitching up in the Cape. I would imagine that pitching coach Jason Kelly, will make his way up there to see him in person. Caden Wilson can impact the weekend rotation. Obviously, Justin Lampkin, Tanner Jones. There's a lot of pieces back. We need to get a health update on Shane Sadeo.
Yeah.
I know they were going to try to rehab that ligament in his elbow, but it's just – I've been around baseball long enough to know that the rehab deal, everybody will want to do it because obviously it's not surgery. And it all depend on, the tear, the length of the tear. Can it be fully rehabbed? I don't know. I don't know these answers. I'm not a medical professional, but if Sadeo is back, obviously Sadeo is going to get the ball for one of your weekend starters. But he could also, if he's not, if he's got to deal with injury, you want to make sure your roster can withstand that. Whereas last year, or this past season, Sadeo's absence, even though Lampkin stepped up in a massive way in Omaha, massive way.
Yep.
Imagine if you've got Shane Sadeo to pitch in Game 2 against Tennessee, and you had a 1-0 lead in the 6th inning, but by that time Chris Cortez had thrown almost 100 pitches, and remember you had to start Zane Badmiev as an opener. So what happens if you start a healthy Sadeo as an opener and everything kind of plays out the same where maybe you're handing the ball to Cortez in the 6th inning,
right,
and say, hey, take us home. Or it's hand the ball to Cortez in the 6th. If he gets you to the 8th or the 9th and it's still 1-0, then it's Aschenbeck. So the whole outlook looks different. That's why I think Sadeo, as much as Braden meant to this team and this baseball program, and he'll be a forever legend here, the key injury that nobody talked about was Sadeo and what it meant.
I agree. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with one final segment here on the Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Right now, Milliken Reserve, they are a farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces, and they have a mission to build a healthy community around nature. It's a great place to just go hang out, be together. Go jump rope, climb trees. Ronnie loves doing all that. Milliken Reserve is the place to go. 2,600, yes, sir? Probably need a cold beverage in that situation. 2,600 acres of open space, farms and trails. They want to connect families to nature and to each other. They have an extensive network of trails throughout a wooded landscape that includes walking and equestrian paths, creeks and ponds, and gathering areas. They're committed to maintaining and restoring that natural habitat. What you need to do right now is go to the website, millikenreserve.com. That is millikenreserve.com. Go check it out. Learn all about the activities and also the beautiful real estate out there. millikenreserve.com. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Bronny with us for a few more minutes. I believe you're hosting Wednesday?
Yes, I believe.
Okay. Good. It's awkward silence. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center.
I don't like what's going on here.
What do you mean?
Ever since that comment came in, there's been something going on, and your phone's been buzzing a bunch.
Yeah,
so I think hold on, let me finish. I think you've got going on is some kind of group chat with everybody here that doesn't include me, because you've had this Nuño smirk on your face ever since that comment came in.
Bronny, I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't participate in the group chats.
Oh,
they don't include me, and I don't include myself.
Because you're a lame-o.
So I know you want to make it about you, like the University of Texas likes to make it about them. But honestly, I'm getting reports back from Charlotte where my daughter Annalise is at another showcase because she's kind of good at stuff. That's what I'm looking at. And then I got a text message from a dear friend of mine who played college baseball who wants me to ask you a question that I won't ask you on the air because it's about what happened at the College World Series. That is why. Why a certain pitcher threw so many sliders. And they're asking if it was a conspiracy.
A conspiracy?
Yeah.
Who was it?
Like why Chris Cortez continued to throw sliders.
Oh, no, because it's unhittable when it's going right.
And when it's not going right?
You keep throwing it because it's unhittable. You hopefully gets – I mean, I didn't think that was some kind of conspiracy. I don't think there was any funny business there at all.
See, I shared with you text messages. So that's the smirk. See, I don't participate in the let me make fun of Bronny game.
No. You do.
When?
Well, because listen, this is a top-down thing, right? I mean, it starts at the top, and you know how that works. And works its way down.
When do I do it?
Huh?
When?
Well, whenever the guy at the top's around.
But
it's not just it's not just me. Everybody.
We all get it.
Get it? Yeah, Zane more so now than anybody.
Ronnie, thank you for coming in this morning, buddy.
Well, I'm glad I remembered.
Hey, I'm glad you did too.
I'm getting a bunch of. Hey, by the way, I've gotten some DMs that people listening to the show.
Yep.
Cold pizza's great. They're all on Team Cold here.
Yeah, I wonder why.
You live in Texas and you're going to be Team
Are
Hot.
they all offensive linemen?
No. Who's that popping like that?
I love it. I love when people laugh
I don't know.
at my
I
jokes.
think it's one of the new guys that thinks that the louder he laughs at your jokes that we're going to hire him. That's not how this goes.
That was Brandon Jones. Your boss.
That wasn't.
Yeah, that was Brandon Jones.
Oh, Brandon Jones is the boss?
Yeah, he's laughing.
Talk to the guy in the 10 o'clock hour about that.
All right, we'll come back with more. It's TexAgs Radio. We're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. A week from today, we'll be at SEC Media Days. In fact, we'll be on hour number 2 of that program on that Monday. I have to remind myself I think Coach Kelly. Nick, remind me, who's going day 1?
It's Shane Beamer, Brian Kelly, Lane Kiffin, and Clark Lee from Vanderbilt.
It's a good day. Good day. At least most of those. Good day to be there. So we'll be breaking that down. But it is July 8th, and we're still talking baseball. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. Scott Livingstone is with us. Scotty, we got a lot of baseball we're still talking about, man.
I know. There's still might be some more to unpack, but I think we're getting ahead of it.
So I'm trying to think. The last time you were on this show, I believe, was June 24th, which, or at least with me, which was the Monday of the national championship game, which feels like a year ago, dude.
Yeah, you know what? It really does. It does feel like it was a long time ago. And, I've kind of, all the things that happened afterwards, I've kind of just forgotten about and getting over it. And yeah, it does feel like it was a while ago for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about the vibes right now, though, because there's been so many things that have happened since that game. You lose a heartbreaker. You had a chance there in the final inning to potentially win a national championship. The Schloss interview happens, or a press conference where he says he's, not going anywhere. At least he alludes to that. And he loves A&M. Then the next day he's at Texas, right, having a press conference within 12 hours, right? And you're thinking to yourself, who's going to be the head coach? All these guys are going in the portal. Mike Earley is announced as the guy, and people start coming, and then they start adding. So just to kind of take me through the emotions.
Well, first of all, my wife went to Ohio State, and their rival is Michigan, and they call him the team up north. They don't call him Michigan. So I'm going to call him the other guy. All right. He's the other guy. So yeah, it was tough, but I think, when you sent a message earlier, you said, hey, how about all this craziness? And, I look back on it, and I know now it's greatness, because I love where we are with the hire. I love, I've kind of had an idea the players would come back with the right hire. We didn't need a splash hire. We just needed the right hire. And I think they got it right. And I'm surprised they interviewed 12 people. But once I started hearing Early's name, I was telling people, these guys will come back. They're going to come back, because when I interviewed them on my podcast, all they talked about was Early, Kane, and Coach Max. And wasn't a lot of mention of the other guy, but it was a situation where I knew that they respected those coaches. They loved those coaches, and you could tell that relationship was there. So I think bringing on Early created stability in the program, familiarity, if you will, in the program. And I figured they would come back. And once Hayden came back, I think Ollie may have been the first one, but then Hayden came back, and I told my wife, I said, oh, Jace will be back, because I know they're buddies, right? They're really good friends. And I was like, they're going to be back. And so it's kind of fallen into place. And like you said, the transfer portal now, I mean, when Gavin was in the portal and Jace was in the portal, I think they were 1-2. And the third guy in the portal was Gavin Cash, I believe, from Tech. Mm-hmm. So we got basically the top 3, if you will. So I think it's a good situation. We didn't bring in a whole new staff and create, what's going to happen now, and new programs, new strength programs, new coaches, and get used to them. I think we're able to just continue the momentum that we built from last year.
Scott, let's talk a little bit about Mike Earley, what you've seen, right? So he's an elite offensive coach, right? He knows how to get the most out of his team when it comes to hitting. But his personality, what you've been able to see, maybe some things that people have told you. Tell me what you think about Earley so far.
I love it, because I liked his statement in the press conference where he said, "I'm built for this," and it wasn't cocky; it was confidence. And young guy, energetic, and his mannerisms. I do a lot of stuff off of mannerisms. If I don't know somebody or I haven't met them, I watch how they treat other people and things like that. And kind of like the other guy, somebody would strike out or swing a pitch over his head, and he would take his hat off and rub his hand through his hair, or get on his, hands on knees and shake his head and show people up. And you just don't do that. And I don't see Coach Earley doing that. I go a lot by what I see, and everything I've seen from him and heard from him on the press conference was awesome. And I really believe that he'll follow through on it. And then you got to take stock in a lot of stuff that the players talked about and what they said about him. And, Jay said, I'm going to run through a wall for this guy. And to me, Jace is kind of the face of the program now. So it's for them to be able to say that they're going to do that for him. It goes a long way with me for sure.
Scott, isn't it weird that the other guy was beloved, right? Like, but now we're not only hearing, we can look back and be like, yeah, you know what? That was happening.
You're so right, because I was thinking about that. I was like, okay, stuff was coming out every once in a while. Stuff was said like forever. I'm sorry. For one time he said I think on your show, old is good, but it's time to get rid of the old and it's time for the new, and I felt like, it didn't really, hit me at any point at that time. But then I started thinking about it. It was like, okay, he actually wanted to cover up the paintings in the walls along the locker room and the offices of all the murals and the history of A&M baseball. And it didn't hit me then, but now it's hit me like, holy cow, it was all about him. And it's almost like, he was, when, your reporter asked the question at the end of the College World Series and he stormed out, I was like, golly, he's kind of upset. I mean, I see he's upset. They just lost. I mean, golly, I understand that. No problem. And then everything comes out and you're like, oh my gosh, he was probably stormed out because he was busted, right? He got, exposed. And so I think, it's when he said out with the old, that's me. I'm old, right? So it's out with the old, and in with the new. And I get that, but I felt like it was all about him. And I don't think this new coaching staff, especially the guys that Early's put together, is going to be like that.
Follow me here. Look, I think the Texas series next year is going to be incredible theater and television, right? Or must be in attendance kind of feeling. But to me, with the way they've kept their guys and the way they're recruiting, it's not about that series next year. Like, that is a part of the story, and you want to win that series, no doubt, right? Like, but this is about something much bigger and greater, right? This is about finishing what you came on the doorstep of doing this year.
Oh, 100%. And we are in a much, much better position now than we were at the end of the College World Series, because number one, the other guy is gone. I was happy he was gone. I didn't like the way he exited. I wasn't sure what I think I said something on my podcast about what was his exit velocity out of College Station, right? And, it was just, I mean, yes, these guys, they feel it. What were we, 2 runs away from, winning the whole thing, and 1 from tying it and taking it to extra innings. But, you're right. It's move on time. We got the better end of the deal. We are so much better off than they are right now. I love it. I mean, that's why I think it's greatness, because we're in such a better position now.
Well, let's talk about that position with some guys that are returning. We already know how close Jace Lavalette is to being the all-time home run leader. This guy hit 29 bombs this past year. I mean, what are your expectations for Jace entering his junior year?
I think he's been a leader on the field from what he's done, and I'm sure he's been one off the field because we don't see all of that. But I think he's going to be the leader. Like I said, he's the face of the program, and those guys will follow him. And yeah, he's going to eventually be the home run leader. Might only take him 1 week next, because he hits it in such bunches. But yeah, I like where it's at. I like the guys that are coming back. You have the same culture. You have everything going on. And, like you said, playing at that Texas, I think we play them at their place first. I'm not sure. But, when the other guy comes to our place and he sat on the stage and said he's going to cry if he talked about the 12th man anymore, I think he's going to be doing a lot of crying once he comes back to Bluebell Park. So, but yeah, I like where the team is. I like the roster. It's going to be tough to replace a Braden Montgomery, but I think I think it's Wyatt Hensler coming from Penn, Big Bopper, the kid from Tech. Pieces are all there. I think the pitching is coming in. My main concern a little bit is who's going to replace Cortez if he leaves. Because, I mean, you think about what that guy did in the middle innings to keep us in the games, and he'd come in a couple innings and strike out 8 guys, right? And that's a big league arm. So maybe it's this kid from Cisco that I think I saw just transferred in, throws over 100 miles an hour. Let's see what he's got for off speed. But I like where it's going for sure.
Yeah, I think pitching I think that was the difference for this team this year. Obviously, the offense was super elite, but you got incredible performances from Ryan Brauninger a big chunk of the season before he got hurt, Shane Sadeo, Evan Oschenbeck, the best closer. And a couple of those names I just mentioned, two of those at least, in Prager and Oschenbeck, you don't know if you're going to have them next year. If Prager goes high in the draft, he's not coming back. Evan Oschenbeck may not be granted another year of eligibility. So those are major concerns. Chris Cortez, as you mentioned, he's probably going to go high, so you probably want to have him back.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, and I've heard Ryan say it before, Prager, that, you know, we can win in a lot of different ways because everybody recognizes A&M as offense, but look at the games that Ryan pitched, and like you said, Sadeo, he's going to be coming back from the injury. Hopefully he's going to be good to go at that point. But, you know, those guys on the back end have to step it up. And I know they're going to go in the portal and pick up a couple guys, and they know what they're doing. I trust the coaching staff. I know they're going to give it the best effort. And from what I'm reading, I mean, the coaching staff, I think there's some ties from Arizona State when Coach Earley was there. And so that relationship and understanding each other and being friends they're just going to bring, you know, the best out of each other to put the best roster together.
Well, your pitching coach was just a standing head coach 2 weeks ago, right? Jason Kelly decided to leave Washington to go be the chief assistant here. I mean, that just tells you like what kind of staff he's trying to put together.
Yeah, and I think he was at LSU at one point. Mm-hmm. He built the staff over there with the coach over there when that guy was hired. I think it was Jay Johnson, but you know, just the people we stole one from Texas, right? Is Caleb Longley, I believe.
Yep,
and
that's correct.
You know, and when Coach Earley says, hey, I may have a meeting or I may be talking to somebody, I need to trust that my coach down there is doing the right as far as the hitters and things that he would want to do. So he has to be an extension of him. So yeah, I think putting this staff together and keeping, you know, Will Fox and, you know, on the roster as far as coaches, and Hutch, you know, Mr. Everything, the legend, the support staff. And I mean, I think it's Kaylee Swain. I mean, she was my like hero, watching her in the dugout redo a guy's glove during the College World Series with the leather and fix Appel's ear thing, you know, for the pitching signals. But, you know, it's a great staff. It looks like a fun staff. They're just it creates good stability.
So we talked about Jace a moment ago. His freshman year, he hit 21. Gavin Grohovac last year, as a freshman, hit 22. Jace is knocking on the door of being the all-time home run leader. Gavin looks like he's on that same kind of trajectory.
Yeah, he's going to be on his heels for sure. I mean, Gavin is a special player, special talent, because you think about it with the transfer portal, it's going to be hard for freshmen to play if people just keep going to the portal and picking up a junior and a senior here and there. And these guys, because I'm telling you, people want to play at A&M. These guys want to play at A&M. And it's going to be tough for a freshman to come in and do what Gavin has done and what Jace did 2 years ago. And even Sorrell, I mean, he's got a chance if he stays 4 years, 3 years, I don't know how long. But Gavin, yeah, he definitely for sure he's gonna put up some big time numbers, as is Jace, and he's going to be on his heels for sure.
Scott Livingstone with us here on the Boss Firearms Hotline. You bring up an interesting point, too, because I think in this new world of college sports that we're in, like these records may stay in place forever. I mean, what Jace is doing, because you have a really good year somewhere, you're going elsewhere a lot of times. Like, so some of these records, that's why it's almost rare now to see a guy stay.
No, totally. And you know, I was thinking about that before because somebody said, oh, Jace I think he's tied me. He's tied me for home runs. I'm like, and I've said it before on this show, it took me 4 years, but I stayed 4 years. And I mean, I passed up 3 drafts to stay at college for 4 years. And you're right. It's tough because somebody might want to go somewhere else and they may not. It may take somebody a little bit more to mature at a junior college or something, or at another 4-year college. And then they're like, okay, they put up big numbers and they're ready to transfer. Well, where are they going to look? It's going to be the 12th man in Texas A&M. So you're right. Guys aren't here for very long, especially you don't see a lot of 4-year players anymore that are putting up big numbers because usually they're gone after their junior year.
Scott, another freshman last year who was phenomenal, who did not start all year long, but he really found his groove with Caden Sorrell, who decided to stay. I think that was announced on Wednesday. Just to talk about what you saw from him, his glove, his ability to hit the long ball. He did a little bit of everything.
I think we saw him mature over the season. As the season progressed, I think he progressed, and he got better and better, and he built more confidence at the plate, being at A&M, being on the big stage, if you will. And he's a super talent as well. and the plays that he made in the outfield. And I think he hit a ball. I texted him or DM'd him after he hit a ball he may have hit it on Welburn. I don't know, but I was like, dude, that was a bomb, and it was like awesome and super talented, and he's going to be big for us as well.
Yeah, I think he's going to be big. And you think about all three of those guys. I mean, Jace has got a year left, and Gavin too, Caden hopefully too, like all those guys. That core unit right there, that core group, I should say, I mean, that is an offensive 1-2-3 punch that I think kind of rivals what you had with Braden in a different way.
Yeah, it does, and because there's still a fear factor at the top of the lineup for Texas A&M. It's not like you're afraid of 3, 4, 5. You got to worry about the guy from that first pitch. Gavin from the get-go, and then Jason the 2-hole, and then I don't know who's going to back him up in 3. We got the guys transferring in, but having that core group of young guys that you can continue to go back to and trust and say, hey, they've been in the program, they get it, they're maturing through the process. They're going to be the eventual leaders of the team. Because when you do have guys coming in from the side, from the transfer portal, they have to get used to everything. Just because they're older than everybody doesn't mean they're going to be the leader. I think it's going to be that young core group that you're talking about.
Well, and then Caden Kent, who really did replace Braden Montgomery in the lineup, he decides to come back. If what we saw at the end of the year is any indication of what kind of player he's going to be, and by the way, he's a guy that Schloss didn't play a lot, right? So in this world, he's going to be playing all the time.
Yeah, he's kind of he's one of those guys that I really like to follow because he's number 3, and that was my number. So, he really. I always thought he could play. I always thought he was good. Obviously, he's got his dad who played, Jeff Kent, and doesn't show a lot of emotion. I like the way he sits in the stands, but Caden, yeah, he's a special talent too, and I think he finally got his chance. And when he got his chance, he took advantage of it. And that's what you have to do. When you get your chance, you have to take advantage of it. And I think he was a special piece of that offense too. And not just when Braden went down, but being able to plug him in on defense if somebody got banged up a little bit and being able to play anywhere. So I think we're going to see some big things from Caden.
All right. So let's wrap up basically with expectations for next year. I mean, there's still a lot of questions to be answered with the pitching staff, right? But should we be expecting a similar trajectory that we saw last year, knocking on a doorstep of a College World Series, getting to Omaha, competing for an SEC West, competing for the SEC overall? Like, what do you think?
Well, I think it's tough to repeat in anything because, I mean, everything kind of fell into place for us this year. The guys really stepped it up, and I don't see any fall off from that. Because, again, you go back to that core group that you talked about and bringing in the figured out. And because we can't outslug everybody, right? And we can't outslug our way to a championship. We got to have the pitching. And so I think that's going to be the important piece to see how these guys develop, how the pitching coach works with these players and gets them ready. Because all you heard about last year is Coach Max. And he was, fire up the zone and fill up the zone and all that stuff. So I think it's going to come down to, getting the right pieces, maybe 1 or 2 more arms. Does Prager come back? Does Cortez? It's kind of up in the air right now. But I think if we lose the guys we think we're going to lose, and then we add a couple on the back end, I don't see why we can't make another Omaha run at all.
Scott, that's the thing that Bronny was saying is like, look, just assume that some of those guys are gone. And if you get them back, great. But like Prager, like in my mind, like, that was the way to go out, the way he pitched, right? Now, I would love for him to come back. And, I want him – I want for a lot of those guys the same thing I think you would want, right? I want you to – whatever you want to happen. If you're ready for the bigs, let's hope you get drafted where you need to be. If you want to come back, let's go. Let's run it one more time.
Yeah, I think we got spoiled last year watching these guys play and how good they were and what Ryan did on Friday nights. I mean, he was amazing. And so – yeah, it's hard as a fan because you're like, you want everybody back, right? You don't want anybody to leave. You want the same team. You don't want Braden to sign, but he's gonna sign. And that's a tough situation because as a fan, you just want everybody back, like I said. And I just think you got to let these guys go, and that's what's going to be important in the Michael Earley years of coaching down the road is. How's that backfield look of what players are coming up from behind? Because we don't want the early days of coaching, the early era, if you will, to just be this 1 year because we got everybody back from the team from last year. We need to backfill that back end with more players to continue this momentum.
I think the bottom line, and I'll let you go after this, is just that we know what this program can be and is. We felt what it could turn into after Schloss left, like, we better get and we got the handle, right? So we're still in that same position and maybe even better off.
Yeah, and I think it's like I said, we're in a much better position than the other guy is. And I think it's a situation where you can't win the College World Series every year, right? So we're going to have to – it's going to be tough, and people are going to be gunning for us. And now some people are going to get us at their home park and get away from Blue Bell because it's the toughest place to play, right? So it's going to be tough to repeat, but the talent we have right now and the roster that they are putting together – I don't see why they can't end up in Omaha again, but it's going to be tough to continue that year after year after year, but we can always be able to battle for an SEC championship for sure.
Scott Livingstone on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Scott, I appreciate your time, buddy. Thanks so much. We'll talk at some point, all right? We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Scotty. Good stuff, as always. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back with an open segment, read some text messages, get some thoughts out there. Right now, though, we're talking Heritage Films and Chance McClain. His company is yourheritagefilm.com. That's the website you go to for a heritage film, a documentary done about your family. So if it's, if you got a patriarch or a matriarch in your family, you want to tell their story. You've got a cool family business that's been thriving for a long time. You want to tell that story. You got a family ranch. You want to kind of talk about how you guys found the ranch and what you've done there for so many years. Or you just want to talk about some cool family moments. You can do that with Heritage Films. Like awesome things that you guys do together. If you guys play bingo on Fridays or dominoes, or you guys do picnics all the time, let Chance and his team be an eye in the sky of these cool events, and he'll tell that story in a documentary form that you're going to cherish for generation after generation. You don't have to play the game of telephone. That story is preserved so you can keep it for your kids and their kids and their kids after that. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com. You can also get a Yearflix, a 20-minute video Q&A for the younger kids in the family. It's a cool thing to do where you can just kind of find a benchmark video, find out what they're into, what they're going to be into later on, what they think they want to study, some questions about their friends and their schooling. It's a really cool thing to do. You follow up in a couple years with another video. The website, again, yourheritagefilm.com. You can call Chance up directly, 713-893-8341. That number, again, is 713-893-8341. It's Heritage Films. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Does anybody have an update on what's happening weather-wise? I'm just going to read a couple things I see from Max Crawford, at least in the Brazos Valley. 46-mile-per-hour winds 13 minutes ago at Easterwood, 49-mile-per-hour winds in Navasota just after 9 o'clock this morning. So that's what the wind situation is. I know Houston's been getting destroyed, Sugar Land. My buddy Rahil's in the Sugar Land area he said it was really rough in his area. Have you seen any updates, Nick, for us?
I have not checked in a minute, but yeah, that sounds about right. It was supposed to be rolling through right about now. I guess starting to get to the rougher stuff, at least up here in Bryan College Station. But I think, if I remember correctly, Sugar Land area, like you're just saying, they should be kind of on the better side of it now. Hopefully. I hope so.
Hopefully. What time is this supposed to hit us, Matt? I thought it was like 1 o'clock. Has that been sped up now?
I think that's about right.
Okay.
Like yesterday, when I was texting you, it looked like it was supposed to be about 7, but
yeah,
that definitely got pushed back.
Yeah. A couple things that we were talking about, and just when you think about what Coach Earley is doing right now, more than anything, at least for me, the way I fan, like I think about the best case, the worst case scenarios, right? And Coach Earley has done so far best case on everything, right? Like everything has been an A+ in his week on the job. When did they announce him? Sunday of last week, right? So he's been on the job for a week, and everything has been an A+, from player retention to acquisition. Like everything has been done the right way. And the reason I bring it up in that manner is you go back to how you probably felt 10 days ago, before, or maybe a little bit longer than that, before you knew what the direction was. And the fear was, are we going to lose everybody to Texas? Are we going to lose everybody to everybody? Like, is everybody going to be gone? We're going to have to complete, because that's the world of college athletics we're in. And say what you want about his lack of experience. The guy is a planner and a leader, and young men want to play for him. And that's been proven beyond just the Aggies that were, like, let's run it back again, right? That's proven beyond that. Nobody followed out the door to the other guy, as Scott Livingstone talked about it. So to be where we are today, considering all the chaos that could have happened, you couldn't ask for a better situation. I know that we got some questions about pitching, but I can't imagine too many other rosters that that people wouldn't want to have over ours, right? Like, I think more people would want ours. I don't know what's coming back to Tennessee. I don't know what the other program's situation is, but I know what A&M has coming back, and I know what A&M has added to their team. And in a world where you lose guys, look at the football team, who didn't lose that many considering a coaching change, but they lost some dudes, right? In a world where you kind of expect to lose guys after good things happen, much less a rough thing in a coach leaving, A&M couldn't be in a better position today. They're in the best possible position considering everything that's happened outside of winning a national championship, which they were knocking on the door. So in that regard, I say, Coach Earley, your first week on the job has been fantastic. And I do think the momentum, other people are noticing, and people want to be a part of that. And that's why you're seeing some of these. So we'll see how many extra players are here over the next, because I think Bronny said he expects 1 or 2 announcements later on today. We'll hit a break. We're going to turn our attention for most of the show the rest of the way. We'll still talk some baseball with Billy, but we're going to talk some football here in the next segment. Got Braden Gall joining us here on TexAgs. Right now, though, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You can find them on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. When you're looking for a vehicle, you should start your search there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It's a great place to go to kind of see the selection that they have at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You get a feel for the pricing, get a feel for the vehicles, and see the interior. Like, I think I want to check that one out. Then you make the trek out there. You're going to be blown away by the entire experience, from the customer service to the good people to the great pricing, the great trade-in value, and, of course, the customer service that goes from before, during, and after the process, right? The entire experience is fantastic. And when I say after, I'm talking about their service is second to none. Complimentary pickup and delivery for service customers. So if you don't have time to drive to Caldwell because your vehicle needs to have something done, they got you. That's what they do at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. That's what they've been doing for a long time. Proud supporters of Aggie athletics, and they just love being a part of this community. 15-minute drive, Brian to Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. Braden Gall's joining us, the owner of 440 Sports, and of course you can find him on ESPN Radio, Athlon Sports. He's all over the place. And you got a new hockey venture, right? Is that, I don't know if it's new, but new since the last time I spoke to you.
Yeah, we launched a hockey community for Nashville Predators fans, which I'm sure so many of your audience and your members are very interested in. If you want to know about the Nashville Predators farm system. I'm your guy. I'll tell you. No, I'm hiring some people that actually know what they're talking about in that space. I covered the team for a while, but the goal is the same at 440. It's the same, when I fill in on ESPN radio and get to do shows, it's about community. It's about people who love the same things, who are invested in the same things. You guys are doing the exact same stuff. And so it's sort of a print version of what you guys do covering the Aggies. We're going to do that for the Predators, and it's no different than what we do for SEC football or the Titans or, when I'm talking to the Feinbaum audience, for example, it's a tight-knit group.
Yeah, they are, and it's going to be a tight-knit group next week. It's going to be a bigger group because we'll be in Dallas. You looking forward to SEC Media Days?
I'm looking forward to eating some cow cooked the right way. I mean, I know you folks know how to do that, and I haven't lived in Texas for, since 1996, and so I got some family in the Dallas area, and looking forward to seeing some family and eating some brisket and listening to kids tell their stories, because that is really what I find to be interesting. I've been going to SEC Media Day since 2006 in Hoover, Alabama, my first year out of college working in this world. And I think the kids, the athletes, I say that now because I'm 42 years old, they're the best part.
Yeah.
By far the best part. They are the most interesting. They are the most dynamic. They are the most thoughtful. They are way more impressive than anybody realizes, especially fans, especially old fans. The coaches are the coaches. They are what they are. They're going to get there and they're going to have their talking points and they're going to say their things. And, maybe Shane Beamer and Lane Kiffin and Mark Stoops will say some weird stuff to each other. But like by and large, it's about the athletes. It's about the players. And they've gained strength in their voice over the last few years with the freedom to speak more and to have more opportunity to speak. And when I go to this event, I am going exclusively to get to know the players, speak to them, and sort of tell their stories when I'm there, and maybe pick some brains off the record about what people think about XYZ team or whatever. So
I haven't heard the soundbite yet, but our buddy Josh Pate tweeted out a little while ago he has A&M as a top 10 team over the next 3 years. A lot has to happen, and I think there's a great core unit there. What do you think about the job Elko's been able to do, not only keeping players, the retention and beyond, but just like it seems like the structure that he's put in place?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are much closer, but from a distance, it feels like a night and day, moment by moment switch. And I think you guys have covered this, and I've talked to some folks down there that when he was the assistant, that the two practice fields were different. Like, here's the offensive practice field that felt this way, X way, and here's the defensive practice field that felt Y, and it felt different, and it felt run differently and organized differently. And when you have that kind of just sort of obvious difference, I think and I've said this on our shows, and I'll say it anywhere I'm going. The thing that would shake up the SEC more than anything else, more than Texas joining, more than Oklahoma joining, more than no divisions, more than a 12-team playoff, is if Texas A&M maximizes its potential. If it maximizes its potential, it shakes up the conference at a foundational level. It adds another program like an Alabama or Georgia or Florida. When they're great and they figure it out, they can run the sport. And so A&M's never really figured that out in the modern era in any conference. And if Elko's the right guy for the job, which it seems like he very much could be, then it totally changes the dynamic of the conference. And with questions, I don't think there's a lot of questions about Kalen DeBoer, but I think there are certainly deserving questions when Nick Saban retires. I mean, Oklahoma's got a long way to go, especially with the difficult schedule in the next few years. I think Georgia's going to be Georgia. What's Florida's future? We don't know. What's Auburn's future? We're not sure. I think there's a space, and whether that's Brian Kelly, whether that's Josh Heupel, whether that's Mike Elko, somebody is going to fill it. And I think Texas A&M has as good a chance to fill that space and be on that top tier. Again, assuming Elko's the right guy. And I think he's extremely well respected. I have a ton of respect for him, and I feel like the culture shift overnight. You guys can speak to it way more than I can, but if you can feel that kind of shift overnight, hard to argue with that.
Braden, follow me here. I don't know how much you follow college baseball, but I feel that what we saw with the A&M baseball program is a snapshot of what we could see for Aggie football. Because there's a lot of people like, A&M this is who they are, right? The reality is you get the right guy in there, everything changes going back to what you were kind of saying. And I think they had the right guy. Hopefully we have a better guy now. But you get the right guy who gets a certain type of player, and you all play for one thing. Here's the thing. Jimbo had one really good year here, and he couldn't build on that. So it's going to take something that is not just a one-year thing.
Yeah. So my first trip to Omaha to cover the College World Series is 2007. I've been a few times, and you guys are not going to like this. I'm just going to prepare you, so just be careful. But my 7-year-old daughter, who has been to Neyland Stadium, and who shamed me into taking her to a Tennessee Vanderbilt football game one time when she was like 5, knows every player on Tony Vitello's team right now.
Right.
So I just want to point that out.
All good.
I'm trying to be, in the interest of full disclosure, there was lots of celebrating and lots of joy the other weekend. So I'm sorry.
I get it.
Apologize.
I get it.
But never in my lifetime has it ever happened. So we can kind of share that. At least it did this time. I covered Schloss actually when he was at TCU, when he was in Omaha. He got there, I don't know, it was like 2015, 2016, something like that. And, I only had a few interactions with him. I agree with you that I think he was the right guy for the job. I think he knows what he's doing. The way it ended was not ideal for anybody, but when you can go work for your best friend, it is what it is. It's the cost of doing business sometimes. But I agree that when you have the right guy, like Tony Vitello seems like the right guy. I don't think Missouri is big enough to come calling and steal him away, like his alma mater there. So I think Tennessee fans feel like they've got their guy that's going to fix their program permanently, and it seems like he has. So I agree. And our scouting report, getting back to football, I agree. Our scouting report last year, which is from coaches in the SEC, we get our anonymous scouting report every year. And it's my favorite part of the magazine because we actually get the real stuff from coaches who say the real thing. And it's no longer about scheme and personnel anymore because none of these coaches have any clue what any team is going to look like because of the portal and because of NIL. We used to get such fascinating insight into a scheme or a coach's tendency on third down, or we used to get really interesting stuff based on that kind of. Well, these coaches don't know. When we're putting the magazine together in March and April and May, we're getting professional defensive coordinators in the SEC that are like, I don't know what that team's going to look like on offense. They don't know because the players don't even know half the time where they're going to be coming up in the fall. So it's changed to sort of like analysis of the program, analysis of the power structure, analysis of the organization, the culture, that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more broad. And last year the two comments that I thought were most telling were quotes about Texas and quotes about Texas A&M. And I'm sure you guys talked about them at this time last year when it was like, and I'm paraphrasing here, you can see the culture problem on TV on the sidelines for Texas A&M. And on Texas, it seems that they have removed the entitlement from the program. Those are the two quotes that really stand out to me. And you never know if they're going to be accurate. Turns out they're both really accurate. One program goes on to have its best season in years, win a Big 12 championship, get into the playoff, and the other program spends a whole lot of money to fire its coach. Those things feel different now with Texas A&M. And that when you talk to these other coaches, it feels different now with Texas A&M. So it can change overnight, but you do have to have the right guy. And one of my favorite parts of this sport is to your question about top 10 program over the next 3 years. Sure, that's good click information, clickbait in the summertime. But what makes a great program is not a singular player or a singular coordinator. It is about sort of alignment. It's about infrastructure. It's about the resources. It's about access to recruits. It's about all the stuff that doesn't really change with a program. But you got to get the right person to run all of that stuff. And Tennessee's an example. Everyone that said Tennessee was never going to be fixable, oh, they're permanently damaged, they never were going to be able to win again. It's like, no, that's ridiculous. They have unlimited resources, great access to recruits. As long as you have all that stuff, you got to get the right people in charge. But because no program's immune to bad hires. I mean, every program has made bad hires. Alabama hired a guy that made it literally to the border of the state and didn't make it back again. Every program does that. They make bad decisions. Tennessee made a bunch of bad decisions for 15 years, and then they fixed it. They put a chancellor and an athletic director and a coach in place that all are in the same boat, pulling the same direction. Texas has done that, and it sounds like A&M is right along the board, which, again, those three programs, if you're asking me, which three programs are going to push and challenge Alabama and challenge Georgia it's those three, and if you maybe want to mix in LSU, I think it's Texas, Texas A&M, and Tennessee.
Braden, that first game with Notre Dame, how far do you think that game goes in telling those programs kind of story this year? Because we're going to find out a lot about Riley Leonard. How healthy is he? How is he looking in this new system with Mike Denbrook? We're going to find out the early phase of Texas A&M. I think they have a little bit more grace to kind of figure things out with a first-year head coach. But your thoughts on that?
I think it's to your exact point. I don't think if you lose a game in your Texas A&M, I don't think you learn a lot, because that's not the team I want to play at the end of the year. Like, I don't want to play Texas A. Like, I've said this on Feinbaum now multiple times. I've said it on every show I do. I am guaranteeing, you guys probably hate to hear this, I am guaranteeing Texas A&M wins that season finale against Texas. I don't know if that means that they knock Texas out of the SEC championship game or out of a playoff spot. I don't know where Texas will be at that point, but I guarantee you A&M wins that game. And like, that's the time I don't want to play A&M. So I don't think you learn a lot about a loss to Notre Dame early, because Notre Dame, this could be one of the better Notre Dame teams we've ever seen in the modern era. So it will say a lot about Notre Dame if they don't play well in that game. I kind of think you're playing with house money if you're A&M. A close loss, good signs. A win, elite signs, great signs for the future. You get blown out, okay, it's bad, but like, you know, you could be playing a top 5, top 10 team. So I just don't think it's not the end of the world, because I think A&M by the end of the season, by mid-October, like, I don't think you want to play A&M the last half of the season, and really next year, which again is totally acceptable for a first-year head coach, I think.
Great stuff, Braden. I appreciate your time, man. I'll see you next week. We'll probably do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure, man. Good to see you.
Thanks, man. Braden Gall there. Great stuff from 440 Sports. And, of course, you hear him on Feinbaum all the time, ESPN Radio, Rice for Athlon. He just does great work, and I always like his insight. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with an open segment here to close out the 9 o'clock hour. Then Billy for the 10 o'clock hour. I am going to take most of the week off. I think I'm taking it all off. And then we'll have here, Nick, you got tomorrow?
Yeah, but if you want to do the show, that'd be fun.
Nah, I'm good. I got a lot of stuff going on.
All right.
Nick will do tomorrow. I believe Bronny does Wednesday. Nick does Thursday.
You can do that one too if you want.
And then,
oh yeah,
Matthew and Luke on a Friday.
Yeah. How many viewers? 3?
9.
Maybe 4?
19,000. The TikTok generation.
If that happens, I'm mad. I'm actually going to be angry.
TikTok generation is going to be all in. I'm telling you. That's what they do.
Yeah.
All right. And engineers and math algorithm guys from Matthew, absolutely.
He's going to hack YouTube and get all of the, accounts to watch at one time.
Yeah, he's got it all taken care of. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with that. Right now, we're talking Rollo Insurance, the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio. The difference is real. This studio is the Rollo Insurance Studio. That studio that's being built next door is the new Rollo Insurance Studio. They do it all, by the way, guys. They have offices all over the place in Houston. They've got North Texas and Dallas, DFW, East Texas, Tyler, Central Texas, West Texas, everything outside of Texas as well. They're all over the place. That's why their headquarters, as you know, is right here on Highway 6. They want to make sure that you know that homeowners, they can be your insurance of choice. Farmers, ranchers, hobby farmers, they can be your insurance of choice. Business owners, they can be your insurance of choice. They've got their slogan, you know it, like beyond being the TexAgs, the difference being real. They are God, family, and country first when it comes to what they do. You hear Jason Rollo talking about it all the time. I had lunch with Jackson went there, Jackson and Keith the other day. It was great. Just talking about what they're up to and the direction of the program. They got this new website that they're working on. It's going to be great. But they want to make sure they take care of your needs here in the Brazos Valley. You can find them on Highway 6 right across from College Station, right here in College Station. You can call them up at 888-44-ROLLO. That number again is 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com. That is rolloinsurance.com. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It's time for Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website is normandystatebank.com. And with that, we have Kay Naegeli.
I feel like I haven't sat down here with you in a while. I don't know why. Maybe it's just been such a splotchy summer for me that my memory is going in and out.
The entire month of June, I feel like you guys were in Omaha. So
we were. It felt like
you were there for
13 days, I feel like.
Yeah, and then I was kind of gone for the first few days before you left, so that's like 20 days.
It was just like we were crossing paths. It just wasn't ever good. Anyways, let's get to some stuff real fast.
Do we have some freshmen moving? What do we have? What do we got?
We have recruiting. Let's hit that first. So Mike Elko and the Aggies continue to add to their 2025 haul. This time it was standout Ryan Gilbert out of North Forney. He is one of the state's top cornerbacks. Oh, he's in the 2026 class, from the DFW area. And then additionally, I know we had Bronny on this morning. Baseball, Mike Earley is just reeling them in. Over the weekend, he added Cisco Junior College right-handed pitcher Kyler LeBlanc, Long Beach State transfer Miles Patton, and then McLennan Community College Clayton Freshcorn. Also this past week, Jacob Galloway, I know y'all have talked about him. He is from USC. Wyatt Sanford reaffirmed his commitment to Texas A&M, and then Wyatt Hensler reaffirmed as well. So, and also Gavin Grahovic was named to the first team all-freshman All-American team by D1 Baseball over the weekend. So congrats to Gavin, and hopefully some more good baseball news to come.
You got it all in?
That is.
In 2 minutes, you got it all in.
Oh, yeah. I'm a professional at that now.
Look at you, girl. Thank you, Kay. Appreciate you. Of course. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Billy Liucci for an hour. We'll have him next on TexAgs. All right, we are back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. A little bit of a rainstorm outside here in the Brazos Valley. It still has not gotten too bad out here from what I've seen. We'll be monitoring that, giving you guys updates as things do progress here in the Brazos Valley. I know Billy's on his way to the studio. We'll try to get him here in a moment. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Censor. I know Carson Stein has been working hard on stories and getting us ready for what's coming ahead. Carson?
I got a little bit of something. I wanted to first touch on a little bit of women's golf. Is head coach Chadwell announced that the hiring of Ryan Sermon as an assistant coach on Wednesday. Sermon comes to A&M from his alma mater of Oklahoma, so it's kind of a narrative now that A&M's plucking these guys from their alma maters. Got something going on over here.
Yeah, they do. Coach Chadwell, Garrett, he did mention that they were getting close to hiring somebody when I last spoke to him. And so it was good to get that through the finish line. And that's a team that is going to win a national championship. I don't know when, but I feel like they've been on that trajectory. They've been in the Final Four. They've been close for the last few years, and they'll continue doing that to go along with Coach Weaver and the entire crew. Carson?
The A&M Aggie Hall of Fame announced a couple of inductees, headlined by Alex Caruso, Seth McKinney, and Camille Adams.
All right. Caruso, I saw that Alex had tweeted a little bit about it. I think it was on Twitter that I saw it, which is an awesome, awesome deal. Seth McKinney, our guy, had lunch with him last week in Billy. Great to see him being acknowledged as well. Do they have a date on when they're going to do that? Do you have that in front of you, Carson?
I don't have it in front of me. I can find it.
Okay, no big deal. Let's try to get one more story in. Or a text message.
I'm sure you guys have already talked about this, but Gavin Grahovic being named first-team freshman All-American by D1 Baseball, being his third publication that he's been announced as a freshman All-American. So the future looks bright.
Yeah, that's a good one there. And we kind of expected, right? Like, the dude hit more home runs than Jace did as a freshman. Like, we kind of expected it. And he was wasn't he the number one target of the transfer portal? Or if not, it was Jace.
It was Jace, and then Gavin was number two.
So, totally expected in here. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can call us up on the Boss Firearms hotline. That number, 979-693-1150. So, again, I have to apologize. I have not heard Josh Pate's commentary. He did tag TexAgs on it. I saw the tweet, and I saw people responding to it, that he has A&M as a top 10 program over the next 3 years. And
David, I actually listened to that podcast this morning, and he basically was just saying, with everything A&M has in place, with Coach Elko coming in, the staff he's hired, he mentioned that, and I believe this is true, that, Jimbo Fisher, he didn't leave the cupboard bare, is how Josh Pate put it. So, Coach Elko came in with a pretty good amount of talent around him. He supplemented it through the transfer portal, obviously kept the signing class together. So he's just, the point of this segment was the top 15, I think, teams going 3 years from now. What are the top 15 teams going to be? And I believe A&M was the 10th on that list. And like I mentioned, just it's with everything backing the football program here, he thought that A&M was in the top 10.
Yeah, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't be. Like, there's the naysayers on social media that'll give you your reasons for this or that. But if you have the right coach, you're going to have the players, then why wouldn't they be one of the top 10 programs over the next 3 years? With that, Billy Liucci is in studio. Billy, I haven't heard Josh Pate's he tweeted out that he thinks A&M is going to be a top 10 program over the next 3 years. I haven't heard. The chair's broken.
Sorry.
Hey, Billy.
David, what's up?
But I guess my response to that is why wouldn't they be? If they have the right guy, which we feel that they do, then yes, they will be exactly that.
He said over the next 3 years?
Yes.
Cup's messed up.
Is that water or coffee you just...
That was water.
Okay.
Over the next 3 years, A&M top 10, yeah, I mean, I don't think that's outlandish. You look at the team this year, and on the high end, they could be that. On the high end, I mean, I think there's quite a range for this team. In the first year under new head coach, they've got some questions on offense in terms of just personnel, I think. The O-line has to be light years better. We're not going to know it till we see it. I've been quite encouraged from what I saw this spring, what I'm hearing about the new coach in Cushing and what he's asking them to do, what I've seen from a Colin Klein offense in terms of what they can do with the ground game, I think all those things can combine to make an offensive line better, as can experience, as can bringing back the right people. And look, I'll be honest with you, like, I thought the whole Bryce Foster thing was problematic for them last year, and I'm not talking about Bryce not performing. I'm talking about Bryce doing track, coming in late, pushing out guys that had been practicing there the whole time, continuity's sake. I think that was problematic. It was just the way it was. And so there's a lot of reasons I would think that the O-line could be better this year and should be.
Right.
The question is how much. So we're not going to know that. So, and then again, you need guys to really step up at receiver, and you're asking guys, all of them, to play better. You're going to need them to play better than they ever have. At Noah, Moose, Jade, they're going to all three have to have better seasons than they've ever put together. That's putting it as simply as I can, right? They're in order for this offense to be good, we're going to have to look up and go, okay, that was Moose's best year, that was Noah's best year, and that was Jade's.
All three. Yeah.
And that's not saying they have to all three be first-team All-SEC or All-Americans or first-round picks. I'm just saying because Noah hasn't really had a full year. Jade kind of came on for like a half a year once he kind of started playing more. And then Moose has had exceptional games. So all three of those guys, I think if you looked up and go, okay, they all had their best year, then I think this offense could surprise. But that's why there's such range, I think, with this football team this year. But top 10 over the next 3 years, yeah, I could absolutely see that. You look at how Elko's recruiting. You look at what he did in the portal. I think the quarterback position, whether it's Connor Wigman for another couple of years, whether it's let's say a Marcel Reed, who's on Longstreet after that maybe by year 3 that's him. Who knows how it's going to go? But you like what they have there in terms of when you're trying to project out the next 3 years, right? I believe in the defense under Elko, always, forever. And then I think, just the way they're recruiting and the way they went about the portal this year is really impressive. So that combination, along with what they're affording Elko and this staff in terms of facilities and, we've talked about the game day environment being unmatched. If they're coached right, and it's not easy to do. Good coaches have failed, but I think you've got a good coach, a really good coach that's a really good fit here at A&M, and I think the contrast of kind of what he's bringing to the table in terms of the discipline and the organization and structure and things like that, I think you're going to see that in the form of wins. And we've talked about this a lot. With the exception of 5 and 7, and even last year, or were they 7 and 5? Even last year, they went through what? They played 4 quarterbacks, and Ole Miss was that close. Bama was that close. Was there another one?
Tennessee was close.
Tennessee was that close. At 10 wins is not, and that's kind of where you're 10 and 2. You're kind of on the cusp of that top 10. If you're 10 and 2 in the SEC, you're right there, usually in there. So, with the exception of 5 and 7, you look at these seasons, you go, the difference is not much. It's a fourth quarter. It's a bad call against LSU or a fourth down stop. It's a first and goal you couldn't convert at Ole Miss. The margins are very small in this league, and that's what I always talk about, to our friends from the Big 12. It's like there's a lot of close losses for everybody. It's not an A&M thing. So it's the teams that can be good enough to overcome, like it's a slightly off day, but you can still win because your system works on Saturdays. Your preparation's better than a lot of the teams you're playing, and you've got superior players. In A&M's case, a lot of times all they had was the superior talent. Those other things were lacking, and they never quite developed a killer instinct, a finishing instinct. I think we've watched Ole Miss develop that over the last couple of years. A&M, it looked like developed that up till 2020, and then it got away from them, And to be honest, a lot of credit, he never gets credit for it, but I thought Kellen Mond for the same thing that drove people crazy about him sometimes on the boards and listeners, that kind of calm and that kind of didn't show a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
Countenance always kind of stayed the same. Maybe that's what they needed under Jimbo because things were so chaotic and erratic, and they needed someone that just kind of – and they won with that, and they won methodically. Now, hopefully this team can do it more explosively and maybe at a higher tempo, but they can do it with defense and a running game this year, I believe. Because if Connor Wigman has a running game and a good defense, he's going to make those receivers better. He's going to find the open guys. He's going to get rid of the ball quickly, and he's going to extend plays. That's when this team can hit its ceiling.
Every set of season has its own issues, right? But if you were to point out 2, 3, 4 things that have plagued this team the last year or two, you would talk about the offensive line, and it's going to be a remade offensive line. It's going to look different. It's going to be coached different.
Yep.
You would talk about the secondary. It's going to look different. It's going to feel different.
Well, I
right?
think that should be I'm not saying it's going to be the best secondary in the country, but I think that's going to be the most improved position on the team. And by the way, they were really encouraging this spring, and that was without a 5-star in Bussey, a 5-star in Ricks. That was without a team captain at Central Michigan and Jones. I mean, and maybe somebody else, but just off the top of my head, that's 3 guys that are about to be added, to that defensive backfield that weren't even available in the spring.
Well, and I want to remind people, a year ago, right around now, you cautioned us about the cornerbacks or the secondary. You were telling us now, like, if there, it's kind of like you're doing right now with the wide receivers.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's not going to work, but we need to see more.
Yeah, corner was a real concern going into last season. There's no question about it. And look at the games. I think of all the games they lost, the only game that I'd go wasn't really what was happening out there on the island was Tennessee. Because Joe Milton missed some deep shots to open guys. But they got you bad at Bama with Burton. I mean, we saw that. That was the difference.
200 yards.
That was the difference in the game. They sacked Milrose several times. Defense held in there, except the only thing was they gave up 4 or 5 legit deep ball completions, like way down the field, big yardage, including a couple touchdowns. Ole Miss goes without saying. And by the way, Ole Miss, you're out there playing 2 true freshmen, basically. Sam McCall didn't really play at Florida State, and Javon Thomas. Okay, then you go the bowl game. You're playing a walk-on corner and a walk-on at safety. What else did they lose? We had Tennessee. Oh, Miami. Your secondary got torched to where you're going, damn, this Miami offense might be – no, they weren't. That quarterback didn't even finish the season.
He's at Wisconsin now.
He got benched. Like, that was horrific play on the back end, particularly at corner. So they're right there before halftime. So there was some really – and again, one of those guys that got victimized a lot still has a chance to be pretty good in Javon Thomas, but he was a true freshman that played against Miami in like week 2, and then we didn't see him again until you throw him out there against Jackson Dart, Lane Kiffin, and Ole Miss. And the other one was LSU. Where, again, they were down. You saw Bravion Rogers, a true freshman, getting picked on out there, who hadn't played much at all that whole year, and he's going up against Malik Neighbors. And I mean, so, yeah, it was Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas for LSU, and the Heisman winner, and Jaden Daniels. So that position, but look, that's how you don't succeed, unfortunately. And in year 6, you go to year 6 and you look and your cornerback position is such that you're literally giving reps to walk-ons at cornerback. That's misses, that's injuries, but it's more missed recruiting than it is anything else. And it was the position that we always talked about. Man, they got, and you went all in with, you thought you'd kind of turn the corner with Smoke Bowie and Denver Harris, and they didn't even make it a year. And so that's when you look up and you got a big problem at a position. And I think ultimately that O-line, obviously too, but those 2 spots are what cost you, your job if you're Jimbo. O-line, I would say the hiring of Adazio is what did it. And then in the secondary, it was just recruiting misses that caught up to you.
Yeah. And how much of this season will be on what A&M does or what others do? And I guess let me phrase it better. I kind of butchered that. But
be a lot on both of those things.
Well, but how much of it do you think is like A&M's success this year will be based on some of the things we've talked about or just how good the conference is? Because
it's both. I mean,
it's got to be.
It's always both because, like, the last couple years, it hasn't been that great compared to some of the years we've seen in this SEC. Where, like, if Texas A&M would have just been a little bit better, you could have almost – and I think Ole Miss has done this. I think Ole Miss could peak this year. They haven't been a great team. But they've won 10 games, and they might have done it 2 years in a row, but they're like 2 out of 3 years.
2 out of the last 3 years.
They've been getting by. Like, tell me the great wins they have. There's almost none. There's almost none.
They've won the games they have to.
But the teams aren't that good. Like, Arkansas stinks. Mississippi State has stunk. Auburn has not been good the last couple of years. A&M's been average to bad. 1 year they were bad. But leave A&M out because you're saying, like, I'm saying what A&M could have accomplished. The Aggies lost a couple years ago to Billy Napier, Florida team when they had all their players out with the flu or whatever kind of. I almost cussed. That was so whatever kind of nonsense that was. But you look at the last couple of years and you go, South Carolina hasn't been any good. And they beat A&M up there because you spot them 17 points with a bad snap and a kickoff return. Just ridiculousness, and you still almost win. That's how average they were. They were bad. I can go up and down it. And again, Ole Miss, for their 10 wins, the last 3 games against A&M have come down to the wire. In Oxford, that game where they had 15-0 and they had first and goal to take the lead when it was 15-10 in the fourth quarter. Then you had here, Connor Wigman's first start, 31-28. And Aggies controlled that game in the first half. And then you had last season a missed field goal at the end when Max Johnson came to life in the second half. So, I mean, it was there to take advantage of. And I think LSU, too. LSU hasn't been that good. I mean, the year they were good, they went 9-3, and A&M beat the brakes off of them here. An A&M team that had 4 wins going in. Like kick their ass up and down the field. And so the last 2 years, Jimbo and the Aggies really failed to take advantage. And that was year 5 and 6 under Jimbo. And considering the way year 3 went, you really thought they could have turned that corner and just taken it and run with it. I'd say the last 2 years, the last 3 years. Now, in this new scheduling model, David, it depends on who you play. And I look at, like, Texas' schedule. It's kind of a cakewalk in terms of. But you look at A&M's, that it's not a cakewalk, but it's also not murderer's row. You don't have to play Ole Miss. And Ole Miss on the road would be really. You don't have to play Ole Miss.
Georgia.
You don't have to play Georgia. You don't have to play Tennessee. You should be solid. You don't have to play Alabama. You got tough ones. This is what the difference between A&M and Texas. You're at Auburn. You're at Florida. Texas is home against Florida. They're home against Kentucky. These teams that
home against Georgia.
They're home against Georgia. Well, A&M's home against LSU. You're home against Notre Dame. You're home against Texas. You're home against Missouri. But you got to play Missouri. See, to me, that's it's not as tough as it could be because I don't see Alabama. I don't see Ole Miss. I don't see Georgia, okay? I don't see Tennessee. I don't see OU. Those are like 5 of the top 8 teams projected in the SEC. But I do see Missouri, LSU, and Texas. Guess what? I also see them all at home. It gets confusing, though, when you're at Florida. A lot of talent on that team and desperate. They're playing at home. At Mississippi State, tough place to play regardless. At Auburn, a team that a lot of people think could make a big jump this year, and you're playing them there late. At South Carolina, always a tough place to play. I believe that game's in that night window too. So even the road trips, when you go on paper and say, okay, A&M probably better than those 4 SEC teams on the road, but those are all, for different reasons, pretty freaking tough places to play. The one that Texas has like that, outside of Kyle Field, that's a rivalry. That just goes into that tough category. At Arkansas, that'll be tough for Texas, I think, having to go there. But A&M's got landmines on the road against the teams that we think and they should be better than. But I still think the schedule lays out middle of the road for A&M. It's not overly tough, like compared to what you could get in this league.
Win the games you should win.
Here's Texas' schedule.
Right? But if A&M wins the games they're supposed to win or should win, programs that we have more resources than, programs that we
more
should
resources than Florida and Auburn. I mean, maybe a little Auburn, but not really. I mean, I think A&M's on their levels. Florida. I mean, right now, today, A&M's probably got better facilities than those schools, but you can't. I don't think you can say A&M should be at a higher level than the Florida Gators and the Auburn Tigers. I think they should be better teams this year, very slightly. But
Nick,
you're on the road.
Put up the schedule because, and I'm not even talking about those programs.
Yeah.
Because I think going on the road at Florida, I'm saying
Missouri.
Mississippi
State.
Missouri, I still don't know about, but Mississippi State,
South
Arkansas,
Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Those are all games they shouldn't be tweener games. Those should be A&M games.
Yep.
Now you have the 50-50 games, right?
But they're tweener games, David, because it's your first year under a new coach,
right.
and you've lost like 13 games the last 2 years.
In the row. Oh, on the road.
And then on the road, yeah. But they're tweener games just because, yeah, you hired Mike Elko and you provided all this stuff to get past all that to where you win 90% of those games. In other words, top 10 program.
Right.
Playoff contender, national title contender, which is the ultimate goal of every hire for programs this size, whether you're in College Station, Austin, Norman, Baton Rouge, Auburn, wherever. But no, I mean, I think, though, the big question, going back to what you said, is, and I was talking to Peter Burns and Doring this morning on SEC radio, like LSU and Missouri, I think you should win those games at home. And that LSU is the same reason I'm saying Florida and Auburn are scary. I think A&M maybe is a little better than those teams, but when you go on the road in this league to places like that, they're more than talented enough to beat you. And I would say the same about Texas A&M with LSU and Mizzou coming to Kyle Field.
Yep.
And Notre Dame, but that's almost like an outlier because it's that first game and who knows what about who. But he was asking me about LSU and all bias aside, gun to head, will I pick Aggies or LSU in that one? I said, I think I'd pick A&M. LSU looks really strong in the O-line. Guess where A&M looks really strong?
Defensive line.
Garrett Nussmeier had some nice moments in a mop-up duty against Georgia and in a start against a bad Wisconsin team with 2 first-round picks at receiver. And maybe Neighbors didn't play. I think he did, though, maybe. And Connor Wigman's looked better against a top 5 LSU team, against an Ole Miss team that was really good a couple years ago, even in that loss to Miami. So, I mean, if anything, don't tell me how much better Nussmeier is than Wigman yet today. Don't tell me that, because you can't win that argument rationally. You can't sit here and I would agree with you if you want to say, hey, let's call it even for right now. They both showed a lot of promise. All right, fine. I've seen Wigman do a little more against SEC competition, but okay, fine. But don't tell me he's better. And this series has been a home team wins it series. There are still major questions about the LSU secondary and defense. They lost a lot on their D-line. They were struggling to get dudes in the portal. So, yeah, I mean, LSU coming to Kyle Field, I think I'd look at it and go, the Aggies need to win that game. And by the way, the home team has won the last 6 games in that series. So, and then Missouri, hey, everybody's scared of Burden. Their passing game, their offense came to life last year. They had a great running back that's not there anymore. They lost their defensive coordinator. Their defense wasn't elite last year anyway. if you're Texas A&M, you don't see Missouri as winnable, then I think you shouldn't even be here. But I think it's winnable with all due respect to Mizzou. They could come in here and get you. We don't know what A&M, can A&M block? Can they catch and make plays? Is the secondary going to be as improved as we think against that Missouri passing game? We don't know, but I'm going to tell you, those games are games that I think A&M needs to win next year, and I think they can.
Sandman, Billy, your schedule is only 1 weaker than Texas in terms of strength of schedule. Just stop.
Well, I'm going to keep going, and you're apparently going to keep listening, so thanks for the advice, but I will not stop.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, Diddy, but in that Diddy?
Rockefeller Records.
Yeah.
I think Jay-Z did.
Jay-Z?
Yeah.
Okay, if it's Jay-Z, then you can say
he's still.
Schedule is only what's he saying there? One better on the strength of schedule. I don't give a damn about that. I've got common sense. I can look at it. And by the way, I'm not saying that A&M's is like the most brutal schedule
you said
ever.
That. You were fair. Yeah.
I just think Texas is a little easier because of the road stops they have. They're not. You guys act like you know this league. Just by all means, I didn't learn crap in 12 years. I don't know what I'm talking about. You all know exactly what you're talking about because you're on Twitter a lot. And you read message boards. Just like, God, I could go down the list of things you dumbasses think you know about me that you don't because you read it on a message board, because your people want to paint that image of me. And by all means, have fun with it. But you don't know. You don't know that going to South Carolina at night makes South Carolina like twice as difficult as they would normally be. Going to the Swamp, going to Jordan-Hare, brutal. Auburn cannot be that good in that place. It's really tough to play. We've seen it. And everyone in the league sees it. These are not Aggies. Teams don't like going to Mississippi State with the cowbells, and especially if that one's at night. Like, these are real things. You guys saw it 2 years ago in Fayetteville when you got your teeth kicked in. You got absolutely humiliated by Arkansas in that one. And so it is tough, and it's not playing in Ames. It's not playing in Lawrence. It's not even playing in Manhattan unless you're going back to the 90s, late 90s with Michael Bishop and Dan Snyder. It's not – the atmospheres are not
it's different.
The same. So my point is Texas got a very fortunate draw their first time through. If you want to make this not about A&M, because, again, I don't think A&M got the roughest draw ever. Again, they missed Georgia and Bama. You could just stop there.
Right.
But I'll throw in they also miss Ole Miss. Texas, to me, I will gladly say they're one of the top 4 teams going into the preseason, going into the season. A&M misses 3 of those 4. I'm not saying they got murderers row. But if you want a better comparison, take A&M out of it. Longhorn that likes listening to us, and thank you, by the way. We can go back and forth. Thanks for listening. I hope I don't piss you off too much. But let's compare Texas and OU's schedule. Compare Texas and Florida. Like, I'm telling you, they got a very, very, very fortunate draw in year one in the league. I don't think you'd find anyone that knows this conference that would disagree with that. Don't take it so personally.
All right, let's hit a break. We're way past this one. Right now we're talking Costa Vida. Say hi to Holly. 4-year anniversary coming up on July the 14th. It's a Costa-versary. To celebrate, they're offering $4 off their Baja Bowls on Sunday from 10:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Breakfast tacos until 10:30. Holly wants to make sure that you all she wants to thank you all for supporting them these past 4 years. And also available for dine-in, drive-through, not available online. Just mention it at the register when you're there. So as a reminder, $4 off. Baja Bowls on Sunday, 10:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Breakfast tacos served until 10:30. It is Costa Vida and the Costa-versary. You know where you can find them, South College Station. Holly and the crew are proud supporters of Aggie athletics and especially Aggie baseball, right? They're all about it. Check them out at 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. Again, that is 4501 Mills Park Circle in South College Station. Aggie owned and operated. It's Costa Vida. All right, TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We're way past the clock. Billy, I want to bring up something we don't need to spend too much time on it. I was reading Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and they had an article about how different A&M is today than the last time A&M and Texas played football back in 2011. And it just kind of went through some of the differences from enrollment to the number of fans that go to Kyle Field, just where we are in the hierarchy, even though the last couple seasons of football have not been kind to A&M. Just overall, a different place A&M is today than the last time Texas played. Just your thoughts on where we are now as opposed to, to 13 years ago.
I don't read Dave Campbell's Texas Football anymore for a reason. I think it's one of the biggest fall-offs I've seen. I don't like a lot of the people that write for it anymore. So I don't really generally look at that. I think there's truth in what you're just telling me. So it's probably an interesting read. I won't find out, but I think.
But we're in a better place.
I think football-wise, forget about this other stuff. Texas fans are going to come to Kyle Field and they're going to be like, oh, wow, this is different than I remember it. Oh, wow, this atmosphere's even better than it was before. I do think that's the case. But football-wise, A&M is a much better program than it was then. I mean, you could go down and look at the rosters and it might tell you a little bit different story. You had a top 10 quarterback in Tannehill.
Yeah.
You had Ryan Swope. You had Jokel and Matthews. Jokel and Matthews were what? They were sophomores at that time. They ended up playing their best football in the SEC. Cedric Ogbuehi, I remember he started that game as a freshman, had a rough game, ended up being a first-round pick. So Mike Evans was on the roster, so you'd count him as a first. He didn't play. He redshirted. Johnny Manziel, Heisman Trophy winner, first-round pick, didn't play, redshirted. So Demontre Moore didn't play. Cyrus Gray was a great running back. Little piece of trivia that people forget. Cyrus Gray was one of the two best running backs in the Big 12 that year. He got hurt the week before on a long touchdown run against Kansas. Pulled a hamstring or whatever he did, missed that Texas game. They were without the best running back in the Big 12, who had gone for 200-something against them the year before in Austin and was a huge part of what they did under Mike Sherman. You had Tannehill the runner, Cyrus the runner. What they did was they pulled a red shirt off Ben Molina for that game against Texas. He had redshirted, hadn't played all year. They pulled it for that one game. So the numbers and NFL stuff could fool you, but the team that was on the field that day, the last time these teams played, this is a completely different monster in terms of talent and what they've got. Now, to Sark's credit, Texas was way up talent-wise. They didn't have a quarterback. They had Case McCoy in that one, and he made the one big play, and they won. But Texas, talent-wise, I think is up now themselves than they were there towards the end. Yep. That was just starting kind of what we call the end of the Mac Brown era. Texas is up too. Both these teams, I think, have a lot more talent than they did that night in terms of high-end NFL depth, just NFL talent, period. I think both teams are different than they were. But A&M, as a program, is completely different. If you look at the last 12 years of what A&M's done in terms of the teams they've beaten, what they've accomplished, and it's not a ton, but it's 2 top 5 finishes, all the first-round picks, the awards, the big wins, the multiple wins over top 5s, the couple wins over number 1, whatever it's been. They've got a lot going that if you took their last 12 years in the Big 12, it's not even – you can't even begin to compare. I would love to see someone say, last 12 years in the Big 12, top 10, top 5 wins, wins over number 1.
Yep.
Bowl wins and the significance of them. And for A&M, it's a cotton and it's an orange versus, I think, pretty much nothing. There's a lot that you could go up and down. Major national awards, I don't think it'd be even close. And then first-round picks. It started right there at the end with Vaughn, then Tannehill, and then it's just been There's no comparison. Now, unfortunately, A&M's not riding this heater into this first matchup, and it feels like Texas is.
Right.
I think a lot of that has to do with getting 2 years in the Big 12 to recruit as an SEC team. That was a big deal for them in Oklahoma. Full disclosure, I think Texas took much greater advantage of it than the Sooners have.
All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with more. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy, you wanted to bring up something?
No, it wasn't. It was about me and you and talking about SEC media days and kind of planning. I was like, I do want to talk about blah, blah, blah. And then you came back.
Then we came back.
Yeah.
I did want to spend some time on baseball.
Yeah.
Bronny and I spent a lot on it in the first hour, but like literally.
I need to go listen in.
We came off the air on Wednesday, and then one thing after another. Cadence Sorrell was the first bit of news, and like if you're not following, if you're not a premium subscriber, you're missing out. Bronny was updating the boards the entire time, just one guy after another. This guy's coming back. This guy's signing on.
Before we go into this, can I just say,
yes, sir.
Our baseball coverage, and with Bronny and Zane leading the way. I mean, Bronny with his day-to-day updates on these portal happenings and more plugged in than anyone covering it, anyone trying to cover it. And then, like, Zane and his reporting and you know, I think maybe the best question TexAgs has ever asked in a press conference. I think it was one of the gutsiest ones, but I also think more than that, like arguably the most impactful question asked since we've been doing this in terms of like you think about the difference in the narrative had that question not been asked versus it being asked. Their coverage, those two, and Katie and Jamie, their coverage from Omaha, the little contribution from me here and there, what they did up there. And then I think us covering that the coaching search and the way I handled that with it, I think our coverage, college baseball, if you're covering college baseball, we basically in the last few weeks have laid out how you do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's been incredible. And credit to that group especially. So with that said, it's not stopping. It's wild, dude. And I'm like, we were just talking, I'm going and planning vacations today while it's raining. I'm going to sit at home and plan. And by vacations, I mean I take you guys take like family trips. So when you go, you have to go. You know, you have to go and you get your days in and take, a week off or whatever. When I do it, I'll do like leave on a Thursday, come back on a Sunday or Monday.
Right.
Like 3-4 nights. It's plenty for me. But I'm going to do like 3 of those between now and the season because if you think about this offseason,
we haven't had one.
A football coach fired and then a hiring process. That was the wildest I've ever covered with the whole Mark Stoops thing.
Yep.
Then you had an AD leave pretty abruptly, even though like you didn't think Ross was like long for the world at A&M, but his exit was pretty abrupt and it was unexpected. Then you had an AD hiring, which wasn't quick. It wasn't wrapped up in like 3 days.
In the middle of that, you had an NCAA tournament run basketball-wise.
You had Nashville, nice run in Nashville, and then to the second round and just madness there with the way they exited. It was almost a long run. And then you had, your chancellor stepped down, but you had a run to the national championship game in Omaha where I was there 10 days. Our entire staff that went up there were there 14 days, literally from here and back 2 weeks. That before my plane landed, Jim Schlossnagle heads to Texas. And then you have the fallout from that, which was an insane amount of work and analysis and talking and writing. And then you had a coaching search. And now, because of that, just like in football, you had NIL keeping the roster intact, all those quote-unquote signings. You had the transfer portal. You had signing day. And now with Mike Earley coming in, you have all the announcements of guys staying, and then you had the transfer portal and what they're doing. So it has been nonstop. It's been actually really fun. I prefer just winning and continuing to win, and hopefully coaches like Buzz and Elko and Early will do just that. But it has been fun to cover. It really has. And I just think I'm proud of you guys and the team and what you've done.
I'm proud of them. They've been fantastic.
But it's never ending. And here we go now.
It's July 8th, Billy. We're still talking baseball, man.
We're talking baseball and SEC Media Days in a week. So it brought us right up to football. And I was talking with Earley the other day. He made that joke of like, I'm ready for football. You know, like, and it is. It's like, okay, finish out this roster. And then, you know, they're already doing it, though, in terms of recruiting the future classes. Which, by the way, I see people, you know, in Austin commenting, Texas keeps taking guys. I go, it's not really surprising. In baseball, if you're going to A&M or Texas, you're kind of going – a lot of these guys are going for the coach. And Nolan Cain recruited a lot of them. And if they're pitchers, Mike Earley wasn't really recruiting them. The guys Mike Earley was recruiting, a lot of those guys are staying. They're the bats. Yeah. They're the hitters. The pitchers in those recruiting classes are who are leaving, and you just got a pitching coach here on campus. So you're about to see this thing take off as well. But right now it's about constructing the roster right now for this team. Yeah. And damn, does it look good. And to add Patton yesterday, to add a left-handed arm like that, you know, there's a dream world where Prager comes back and MLB doesn't meet his number.
Right.
That's a fantasy. It's a dream. It's not impossible. And he would, based on what I gather, I think I'm not talking out of turn to say he would certainly entertain the idea. But I think it's unlikely. It's highly unlikely. It's like, again, it's a dream scenario, obviously. You do that, I'd start thinking about a national championship run again. And they still could put the pieces together to do that anyway with the way this lineup's looking, with the almost it is daily additions, whether it's your own players announcing they're coming back, and there's still a couple more. I'm trying to think. The big one to me, if I'm forgetting someone, tell me, but the big one to me could be Isaac Morton, because to me, you got guys that will be like, where do they go in the draft? Prager's the biggest. Again, I don't expect that to work out in your favor. I do care, but I want it to work out in Prager's favor for him.
Whatever
either
he wants.
way. Yeah. But like, I don't expect Ollie. But then there are guys like Stewie, Tanner Jones, like that. Those will be the ones to watch. But in the portal still right now, I think Isaac Morton's a big one to pull back. But then there's also guys that they're still going to get in the portal. And I think you'll see them add a couple more arms at a minimum from here.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll have like maybe a minute segment on the other side. It's TexAgs Radio. All right, final minute and 20 seconds of the program. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. So, Nick, you plan anything for tomorrow yet?
Looking at the run sheet. Got
You already made a run
Willett.
sheet?
Well, you did. It's the same, run sheet you made for all the guest hosts. But
I already made it. I don't even remember making it for you guys.
Of course you did. You're the best. Shereen Williams is on there, of course. Talk to her. I guess we can start to think forward to the football a little bit. So we got Shereen Williams, we got Tom Hart as always. Got to figure out what I'm going to do in the first hour because no OB. I don't know if Bronny will do a back-to-back, go hours with me. So I'll figure it out. But
what about the Zaniac right behind you?
I don't know. He's looking like he wants to hop in there. So maybe a Zaniac segment, and then we'll go from there. I'll reach out to some of my boys we'll meet up with in Dallas in a week and see if they want to preview SEC Media Days. So we'll see.
All right. Well, I'm going to take a few days off, kind of. Billy and I are meeting tomorrow. Got a meeting with Zane. I just will be off the air for a couple days to get recharged the battery and get you ready for SEC Media Days from Dallas. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We're going to try to catch up with every one of you mañana with Nick Savage, and then Wednesday with Bronny, and then Thursday with Nick Savage, and then Friday with Luke and Dawson. See you next time, guys.